Welcome back, brave souls, to another journey into the shadows. Tonight, we read Unlocking the Heavy Iron Doors of America's Most Haunted Prisons Places, where the walls drip with misery, cruelty, and restless souls who never found peace. These aren't just old stone fortresses or forgotten relics of punishment. They are living nightmares where screams echo down abandoned corridors and shadows lurk just beyond the flicker of light. From infamous death rows to crumbling solitary cells, these prisons remind us that evil does not die. It lingers, waiting. So dim the lights, settle in, and prepare as we explore America's 25 scariest haunted prisons that are pure evil. Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is one of the most infamous and chilling prisons in American history. Opened in 1829, this massive Gothic fortress was designed to revolutionize incarceration, introducing the radical concept of solitary confinement. Each inmate was housed in a single cell, isolated from human contact, with the belief that solitude would encourage reflection and repentance. But for many prisoners, this enforced isolation became a descent into madness. The echoing halls, iron bars, and stone walls of Eastern State witnessed decades of suffering, torment, and psychological breakdown, leaving an imprint that some say lingers to this day. The penitentiary's architecture alone sets the stage for an unsettling atmosphere. Long, narrow corridors stretch like the arms of a skeletal hand, lined with cell doors that creak and slam with the slightest disturbance. The Gothic-style turrets and arched ceilings cast shadows that twist unnaturally under the flickering lights. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, Eastern State housed some of the most notorious criminals in the country. Yet its reputation for psychological torture came not from physical abuse, but from the suffocating silence imposed on the inmates. Many reported hearing whispers in empty corridors, footsteps behind them when no one was there, and doors opening and closing on their own. The human mind, deprived of social contact, often created its own terrors. But some disturbances were witnessed by multiple inmates and guards, adding a sense of real, unexplained phenomena. One of the most infamous areas of the penitentiary is Cell Block 12, known for its particularly dark history. Prisoners placed in this section were subjected to the strictest forms of solitary confinement, often for months or years at a time. Stories from former guards speak of strange noises echoing through the block, low moans, anguished cries, and whispers that seem to come from nowhere. Visitors to Eastern State today often report sudden chills, icy touches on their arms, and the unmistakable sound of cell doors slamming shut without any visible cause. Some claim to have glimpsed shadowy figures darting across the corridors, vanishing when confronted, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread. Paranormal investigators frequently cite Cell Block 12 as one of the most active areas of the penitentiary, claiming electronic devices malfunction inexplicably and temperature readings drop suddenly in localized spots, as if the cold of the past lingers in the air. Among the prison's most famous inmates was Al Capone, the notorious gangster whose criminal empire spanned bootlegging, gambling, and organized violence during Prohibition. Though his time at Eastern State was relatively brief, Capone's own accounts describe an experience that went beyond the physical confines of his cell. According to stories, he was tormented by the ghost of James Clark. Capone allegedly heard footsteps pacing behind his cell, cold fingers brushing against his skin, and whispers that carried the weight of accusations and vengeance, whether influenced by guilt or genuinely haunted by a spectral presence. Capone's terror added a notorious chapter to Eastern State's already grim history. The penitentiary was also home to lesser-known prisoners, many of whom left behind tales of inexplicable phenomena. Some reported seeing figures in tattered clothing emerging from the shadows. Others described fleeting faces pressed against the bars of their cell windows. And a number of inmates swore they could hear voices conversing in rooms that had long been abandoned. Guards, too, spoke of hearing indistinct chatter or footsteps echoing through empty corridors. And some refused to patrol certain sections after dark, convinced the presence of restless spirits was more than just rumor. Over time, These stories became part of Eastern States lore, creating an aura of fear and fascination that persists even after the prison's closure as a correctional facility. Eastern State ceased operations in 1971, but the building itself has remained largely intact, frozen in a state of decay that mirrors the suffering once endured within its walls. Visitors today walk through crumbling cells, graffiti-stained walls, and rusting iron bars, experiencing an eerie sense of connection to the past. Guided tours highlight the architectural innovations, the history of incarceration, and the haunting experiences reported over decades. But many find that the stories of ghostly encounters are the most compelling part of the visit. Some visitors claim to hear chains dragging across the stone floors, while others describe sudden drops in temperature or fleeting shadows in the corners of their vision. Photographers have captured strange mists and anomalies in their pictures, which some interpret as residual energy from those who suffered in the prison's history. Despite its transformation into a historic site, Eastern State Penitentiary remains a place where the past is palpably present. The legacy of solitary confinement, the suffering of countless inmates, and the stories of spectral visitation all combine to make it one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Paranormal tours, ghost hunts, and special events often take place after dark, allowing visitors to experience the penitentiary in its most atmospheric and unsettling state. The prison's history, architecture, and lingering supernatural reports create a perfect storm for both psychological and potentially paranormal encounters, drawing thousands who are eager to confront the unknown. Eastern State Penitentiary is more than just a relic of penal history. It is a monument to the extremes of human isolation, a place where suffering seems to have left an enduring mark. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the prison's atmosphere evokes a profound sense of unease, a feeling that the walls themselves remember every whispered confession, every anguished cry, and every fleeting shadow of those who endured the strict silence of solitary confinement. Today, ghostly whispers, shadowy figures, and unexplained phenomena continue to echo through the corridors, keeping alive the stories of a place where the past refuses to rest and where the thin line between history and haunting is forever blurred. Visitors leave Eastern State Penitentiary with an indelible impression, a mixture of awe, fear, and curiosity. They may step out into the light of day, but the shadows of the penitentiary follow them, a reminder that the ghosts of solitude, madness, and torment never truly vanish. In Cell Block 12, where countless lives were tested by silence, the echoes of the past remain, waiting for anyone willing or, perhaps foolish enough, to listen. Even the most skeptical cannot deny the chill that creeps up the spine, the inexplicable noises, and the sense that history is watching, remembering, and whispering secrets from beyond the grave. Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, perched on a rocky island in the middle of San Francisco Bay, is one of the most notorious prisons in American history. Often referred to as the Rock, Alcatraz housed some of the country's most dangerous and infamous criminals, including Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, and Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. Built to be escape-proof, the island prison quickly became synonymous with harsh conditions, psychological torment, and tales of desperation. Its isolated location, surrounded by cold, treacherous waters, made the prison nearly inescapable. Yet the stories of those who trod and, sometimes seemingly failed, have contributed to a lingering sense of unease and mystery that pervades the site to this day. From its opening as a federal penitentiary in 1934, Alcatraz was designed to hold the most incorrigible criminals in the United States. The prison's architecture was stark and utilitarian, a series of cell blocks rising against the backdrop of jagged rock and crashing waves. Inmates were subjected to rigid routines, long periods of confinement, and the constant threat of violence. Those who misbehaved were sent to solitary confinement in a section of the prison known as the Hole, a small, windowless cell designed to punish and isolate. Many prisoners emerged from this treatment mentally and physically weakened, and stories of despair and suffering became intertwined with the prison's reputation. Cell Block D, where the most defiant inmates were often held, is particularly infamous among visitors and paranormal investigators. Today, people report hearing the phantom sounds of footsteps echoing through the corridors, even when no one is present. Moans, anguished cries, and unexplained banging sometimes echo off the walls, carrying a chilling resonance that seems to bridge the decades. Some visitors describe a sense of being watched, as if unseen eyes track their movements, and others have claimed to feel sudden cold spots or icy touches in areas where the prison's history of cruelty was most concentrated. These sensations are often strongest near the old solitary confinement cells, where isolation and suffering left an indelible imprint on the atmosphere. Alcatraz was home to Al Capone for several years during the 1930s. While the notorious gangster was largely confined to his cell, he reportedly found the environment oppressive and unsettling, a far cry from the chaos of the streets he once controlled. Stories suggest that even men as hardened as Capone experienced moments of fear and unease within the prison's walls. Some accounts claim that Capone, along with other inmates, sensed the lingering presence of those who had suffered or died on the island, a weight of anger and despair that could not be escaped. These stories contributed to Alcatraz's reputation not just as a place of physical confinement, but as a location where the boundaries between the living and the restless dead seemed thin. The Birdman of Alcatraz, Robert Stroud, is another figure whose legacy contributes to the prison's eerie reputation. Confined for decades due to his violent behavior and obsession with birds, Stroud spent much of his time in solitary confinement. While he became known for his study of ornithology and his writings on birds, his life at Alcatraz was defined by isolation, strict routines, and psychological pressure. Visitors to the island today often remark on the oppressive atmosphere of the cell blocks, noting that the mental strain of solitary confinement seems almost tangible in the air. The combination of physical deprivation and relentless isolation left a residue of despair, one that many claim can still be sensed throughout the facility. Over the years, numerous escape attempts added layers of mystery and fear to Alcatraz's legend. Some of these attempts ended in death, while others remain unsolved, leaving questions about what really happened on the island. Unexplained noises, fleeting shadows, and sudden drops in temperature are often reported near the sites of these failed escapes, particularly in the cell blocks and along the corridors that once served as the prison's arteries. Some visitors even report hearing distant voices calling out, as if inmates from the past are replaying the frustration and hopelessness of their confinement. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest that the energy of fear, suffering, and anger left by decades of incarceration manifests in these eerie phenomena, giving Alcatraz a spectral presence that is impossible to ignore. Guards who worked at Alcatraz have occasionally shared accounts of strange occurrences after the prison closed in 1963. Some claim to see glowing eyes staring at them from dark corners, or to hear footsteps pacing in areas that should have been empty. Others reported hearing whispers or faint laughter when walking alone at night, as if the island itself retained the echoes of the countless lives that passed through its gates. Even today, during official night tours, visitors report sensations that defy rational explanation. Sudden chills, unexplained noises, and shadows moving at the edge of perception. These reports reinforce the idea that Alcatraz is not merely a historical site, but a place where the energy of the past still lingers, palpable and unsettling. The combination of Alcatraz's isolated location, brutal history, and countless stories of suffering and unrest makes it one of the most haunting sights in the United States. Walking through the cell blocks, visitors can sense the oppressive atmosphere that once controlled the lives of some of America's most dangerous criminals. The ghostly echoes of the past are often strongest in Cell Block D, the solitary cells, and the areas where inmates attempted to escape, creating an immersive experience that is both historically enlightening and chilling. Photographs sometimes capture unexplained mists or orbs, while electronic devices occasionally malfunction in specific areas, adding a modern layer to the island's enduring mystique. Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary remains a symbol of both human ingenuity in building secure prisons and the psychological costs of extreme isolation. Its legends, paranormal activity, and the sheer weight of its history continue to captivate historians, thrill seekers, and paranormal investigators alike. The footsteps, moans, and apparitions that visitors report serve as a reminder that the suffering endured on the rock left a lasting impression, one that refuses to fade with time. For those willing to explore its corridors, Alcatraz offers a haunting glimpse into a past defined by confinement, desperation, and the lingering presence of the souls who once walked its halls. The West Virginia Penitentiary, in Moundsville, West Virginia, is one of the most infamous prisons in the United States, known as much for its brutal history as for its lingering paranormal presence. Operating from 1876 until 1995, this massive Gothic-style facility witnessed over a century of violence, suffering, and despair. From riots and murders to countless executions, the prison's walls have absorbed the pain of generations of inmates, creating an atmosphere that some say is thick with tormented energy. Its architecture, a foreboding mix of stone walls, arched ceilings, and iron bars, sets the stage for a chilling legacy that continues to draw both history enthusiasts and thrill seekers searching for supernatural encounters. One of the prison's most notorious features was its execution chamber and the electric chair known as Old Sparky. Throughout its operation, numerous inmates met their deaths here, often under circumstances that left lingering questions and speculation. Stories of inmates facing their final moments in terror, combined with the knowledge of violent crimes committed within the walls, have fueled a long-standing reputation for paranormal activity. Paranormal investigators frequently report that certain areas of the penitentiary resonate with these past events, manifesting as unexplainable noises, sudden cold spots, and even apparitions. Many visitors claim they can feel an oppressive energy, particularly in areas connected to Old Sparky, where the weight of past deaths seems almost tangible. The North Wagon Gate, once the primary entry and exit point for prisoners, has become one of the most active locations for ghostly phenomena. Investigators have captured recordings of deep, guttural growls and phantom screams that echo through the empty corridors, often with no discernible source. Shadows have been photographed moving independently of any person, and some visitors report an overwhelming feeling of being watched or pursued. The energy in this part of the penitentiary is said to be so intense that a number of guests have collapsed or fled from fear, unable to withstand the suffocating sense of dread. The lingering impressions of violence, isolation, and death are believed to have left an indelible mark, creating an environment where the boundary between the living and the spectral world feels disturbingly thin. Within the cell blocks, stories of dark figures and unexplained activity abound. The infamous Shadow Man is often reported wandering the corridors, a tall, indistinct figure whose presence evokes terror in even the most skeptical witnesses, prisoners and guards alike. During the penitentiary's operational years, claim to see this shadow moving silently along the walls, appearing and disappearing without warning. Today, visitors report similar experiences, describing sudden drops in temperature, the sensation of an unseen hand brushing against them, and fleeting glimpses of a figure standing at the end of a dimly lit hallway. These encounters are particularly common in the upper tiers of the cell blocks, where the isolation and confinement were most severe. Riots and violent conflicts also left a lasting imprint on the prison's reputation. Over its more than a century of operation, inmates fought for dominance, revenge, and survival. Murders within the penitentiary were frequent, and the resulting chaos is said to have imbued the facility with a restless, vengeful energy. Visitors today often report hearing echoes of these conflicts, the clatter of metal, shouts, and the unmistakable sounds of struggle. Many claim that certain areas feel particularly charged, almost as if the violence of the past is being replayed in an endless loop. Paranormal investigators have captured audio and video evidence that suggests these experiences are more than mere imagination, with anomalies appearing in recordings that cannot be explained by natural phenomena. The prison's design also contributes to its haunted atmosphere. Long hallways, iron staircases, and shadowed corners create a sense of disorientation and vulnerability. Even in daylight, the penitentiary can feel oppressive, but at night, the empty cell blocks take on a sinister quality. Many visitors describe the sensation of being followed, hearing footsteps echo behind them, and seeing lights flicker inexplicably. The penitentiary's very walls seem to absorb and replay the echoes of past suffering, creating a psychological and potentially paranormal tension that lingers long after one leaves the site. Executions and solitary confinement played a key role in creating the penitentiary's haunted reputation. Inmates who endured prolonged isolation often suffered severe mental strain, and some met their deaths within the walls of the prison. The collective trauma of these experiences is said to have left an energetic residue, manifesting as the growls, screams, and dark figures reported by visitors and investigators. Some suggest that these manifestations are echoes of the pain and fear that once dominated the lives of prisoners. A reminder that extreme human suffering can leave a lasting mark on a place. Over the years, many paranormal investigations have been conducted at West Virginia Penitentiary, and the results have been unsettling. Cameras have captured strange orbs and shadowy figures, while audio equipment frequently records unexplained voices, footsteps, and cries. Investigators often describe an oppressive presence, particularly in the North Wagon Gate and the upper tiers of the cell blocks, where the combination of past violence, executions, and isolation appears to have concentrated. Visitors sometimes report feelings of nausea, dizziness, or an almost overwhelming fear, as though the building itself is aware of their presence and is reacting to it. Despite its closure in 1995, the West Virginia Penitentiary remains a focal point for those drawn to dark history and paranormal phenomena. Tours and investigations allow people to explore its cell blocks, execution chambers, and corridors, but many find the experiences profoundly unsettling. The prison is a stark reminder of the extremes of human behavior, the consequences of confinement, and the enduring imprint of trauma. The shadows, whispers, and phantom screams that continue to echo through the halls speak to a past that refuses to remain buried, where the suffering of prisoners and the weight of death still linger in every corner. The West Virginia Penitentiary stands as a monument to both historical brutality and spectral intrigue. Its walls, shaped by over a century of violence, despair, and confinement, seem to breathe with the memories of those who suffered within them. From the growls at the North Wagon Gate to the wandering shadow man in the cell blocks, the penitentiary remains a place where the past and present collide, creating an atmosphere of fear, fascination, and the unexplainable. Visitors leave with an indelible impression of dread, a chilling sense that the echoes of the penitentiary's tormented history are far from silent, and that in this place, some shadows never truly fade. The Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio, is a haunting testament to the extremes of human confinement and suffering. Built in 1886, the massive structure was intended as a progressive prison, designed to reform rather than merely punish. However, the reality within its walls was far from humane. Overcrowding, neglect, and brutal treatment created an environment where fear and death were constants. More than 200 inmates lost their lives here, victims of violence, disease, and despair. The prison's soaring towers, Gothic architecture, and labyrinthian corridors have since become a magnet for those fascinated by history, tragedy, and the unexplained. Today, the Ohio State Reformatory is as famous for its paranormal activity as it is for its role in reforming or tormenting the men who were confined there. The prison's east cell block is one of its most notorious areas. Visitors report a chilling presence here, often seeing shadowy figures moving along the upper tiers or darting across corridors. The cells, once packed with men suffering in inhumane conditions, seem to retain the echoes of their pain. Cold spots appear without warning, and gusts of icy wind whip through rooms that have been sealed for decades. Many claim to hear the faint whisper of voices calling their names, a disembodied recognition that sends shivers down the spine. Paranormal investigators have captured audio of unexplained footsteps, moans, and whispers, lending credence to the stories of restless spirits still wandering the cell blocks. The architecture of the Ohio State Reformatory contributes significantly to its eerie atmosphere. The towering ceilings, narrow hallways, and iron staircases create long shadows that stretch unnaturally under any light. The high Gothic windows, many broken or boarded up, cast fractured patterns across the worn stone floors, adding to the sense of unease. The sheer scale of the prison, combined with its history of death and suffering, creates an environment where the ordinary becomes unsettling. Visitors often report that time seems distorted inside the reformatory, with hallways that appear longer than they should be, and sounds echoing in ways that defy logic. Deaths within the prison have left a permanent mark on the building, a punishment that could stretch for weeks or even months. Others were victims of accidents or altercations within the cramped cells. The combination of prolonged suffering and sudden death is said to have created a residual energy, one that manifests in ghostly phenomena experienced by modern-day visitors. Reports include slamming doors, rattling chains, and fleeting glimpses of figures at the end of hallways, all of which suggest that the spirits of the deceased may still linger, replaying the final moments of their lives. The Ohio State Reformatory gained additional fame as a filming location for the iconic movie The Shawshank Redemption. Its imposing structure, layered with history and an atmosphere of despair, made it a perfect backdrop for a story about confinement, hope, and escape. The filming brought additional attention to the prison's paranormal reputation, as cast and crew members reported unusual occurrences during production. Lights flickered inexplicably, equipment malfunctioned, and some crew members claimed to feel the sensation of being watched. These experiences reinforced the reformatory's reputation as a location where the past is never truly at rest. Visitors to the prison today often speak of a palpable tension, particularly in the East Cell Block. Many describe an oppressive feeling that grows heavier as they ascend the tiers or move deeper into the corridors. Shadow figures are frequently reported, sometimes appearing fully formed for a fleeting second before vanishing into the darkness. Cold spots, sudden chills, and unexplained drafts are common, even in areas that have been sealed and insulated for decades. Some claim to hear the echo of chains dragging across the stone floor, or the whispered murmur of names and warnings from unseen sources. The psychological weight of the prison's history, combined with these experiences, makes a visit both thrilling and deeply unsettling. Paranormal investigators have spent years documenting activity in the reformatory. Audio recordings often capture unexplained knocks, footsteps, and low growls, while infrared cameras reveal anomalies that cannot be easily explained. Many researchers believe that the energy within the prison is strongest near areas of intense suffering, including the East Cell Block and sections where executions or violent incidents occurred. Some suggest that the combination of mass death, psychological trauma, and prolonged confinement creates a unique environment where spirits remain tied to the physical world, unable to move on. The reformatory's notoriety is further amplified by stories of visitors who experience overwhelming fear or anxiety while inside. Some have collapsed from the intensity of the atmosphere, unable to continue their exploration. Others report feelings of being followed or watched, even when alone. These experiences suggest that the Ohio State Reformatory is not just haunted by traditional ghosts, but also by the lingering emotional and psychological residue of those who lived and died there. The building itself seems to hold memory, a dark reflection of the human suffering that occurred within its walls. Over time, the Ohio State Reformatory has become a destination for thrill seekers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Its combination of architectural grandeur, historical tragedy, and unexplainable phenomena creates a uniquely immersive experience. Visitors walk through the halls with an awareness that every corner, every shadowed stairway, carries a history of despair and death. The ghostly presence in the east cell block, the cold drafts in sealed rooms, and the disembodied voices calling out all contribute to an atmosphere that is difficult to ignore or dismiss. Today, the Ohio State Reformatory stands as both a historical landmark and a center of paranormal intrigue. Its legacy is a haunting reminder of the extremes of human confinement, the consequences of inhumane treatment, and the enduring power of place to retain the echoes of suffering. From shadow figures stalking the east cell block to whispers calling visitors names, the prison continues to captivate and terrify all who enter. It is a place where history and the supernatural collide, creating an experience that leaves a lasting impression on anyone willing to walk its stone corridors and face the lingering presence of those who can never truly leave. The Joliet Correctional Center in Joliet, Illinois, is a sprawling, decaying structure that stands as a grim testament to over a century of incarceration and human suffering. Opened in 1858, this prison housed some of the state's most violent criminals, men whose actions earned them notoriety and whose punishments were harsh and unforgiving. Over time, the facility became infamous not only for its strict discipline and brutal conditions, but also for the strange and often terrifying phenomena reported within its walls. Today, the crumbling remains of Joliet Correctional Center are a magnet for historians, thrill seekers, and paranormal investigators drawn to its reputation as a place haunted by the restless spirits of its past inmates. The architecture of Joliet sets a foreboding tone from the outset. Its massive limestone walls, towering cell blocks, and wrought iron gates create an imposing fortress-like appearance that reflects the seriousness of its purpose. Once bustling with guards, prisoners, and staff, the prison now sits abandoned, its corridors filled with the echoes of decades of suffering. Crumbling staircases, broken windows, and rusting cell doors give the site a sense of decay that mirrors the horrors that occurred within. Visitors often remark that the atmosphere is thick with a palpable tension, a feeling that the building itself remembers the violence and despair that took place there. Many of the most active areas are the upper cell blocks, where prisoners were confined in small, dark cells. In these spaces, paranormal investigators frequently report hearing voices, often calling out names or murmuring indistinct phrases. Footsteps echo through the halls, yet no one is visible, and cell doors have been known to clang shut on their own, as if responding to the presence of an unseen occupant. Some visitors describe cold drafts that seem to follow them through the corridors, sudden drops in temperature that appear in localized areas, and the sensation of being watched from the shadows. These experiences suggest that the energy of past prisoners remains trapped within the prison, replaying the fear, anger, and suffering that defined their lives. One of the most chilling and widely reported phenomena at Joliet Correctional Center is the presence of a tall, faceless shadow. Guards and staff from the prison's operational years recalled avoiding certain areas at night, refusing to patrol alone after repeated sightings of this dark figure drifting silently between cells. The shadow's presence was accompanied by a sense of oppression and dread, and many reported a feeling of being followed even when the figure was out of sight. Paranormal teams investigating the abandoned prison have echoed these reports, claiming to witness unexplained movements, shadows that vanish when approached, and an intense sense of fear in specific hallways. The faceless figure has become a symbol of the prison's dark legacy, a representation of the unknown and unresolved anguish that lingers in the building. Joliet Correctional Center was home to some of Illinois' most dangerous criminals, and the history of violence within its walls contributes to its haunted reputation. Fights between inmates, harsh punishments, and executions left a legacy of anger and despair. Inmates confined in solitary cells endured extreme isolation, often suffering severe mental and physical stress. The combination of prolonged suffering and violent death appears to have imprinted itself on the structure, creating an environment where residual energy manifests in tangible ways. Visitors often report hearing faint whispers, the clinking of chains, and the faint echoes of past struggles, all of which contribute to the prison's aura of unease. The prison's abandoned condition adds to the unsettling experience. Rusted bars, peeling paint, and decaying floors make navigation difficult and amplify the sense of disorientation. Hallways that once contained throngs of men now stand silent. Yet the sounds of phantom footsteps and distant voices seem to fill the space, such as orbs of light or shadowy shapes that cannot be explained by natural sources. Investigators suggest that the residual energy of the countless lives that ended in confinement may be responsible for these phenomena, creating a bridge between the living and the spectral remnants of the past. Paranormal researchers and thrill seekers alike report a wide range of experiences in Joliet Correctional Center. Some describe hearing their names called from empty cells, or the faint echo of a conversation that abruptly stops when approached. Others feel sudden cold touches on their arms, or see figures reflected in broken glass that vanish when they turn to look. Equipment used to record audio and visual activity often malfunctions. Batteries draining unexpectedly, cameras failing to capture clear images, and voice recorders picking up faint, unexplained sounds. These repeated occurrences reinforce the prison's reputation as one of the most active paranormal sites in Illinois. Despite its abandoned state, Joliet Correctional Center remains a place where history and haunting intersect. Visitors report a strong sense of the past pressing in on them, a lingering awareness of the lives once contained within its walls. The stories of shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and phantom footsteps are more than folklore. They are recurring experiences that suggest a prison retains a memory of its turbulent history. Every cell, corridor, and stairwell seems to hold echoes of the pain, fear, and anger that defined the lives of those who spent time there. The tall, faceless shadow that drifts between cells serves as a chilling reminder of the prison's unresolved past. It represents not only the presence of the unknown, but also the cumulative suffering of countless prisoners whose lives ended in confinement. Those who venture into Joliet Correctional Center often leave with an intense, lingering impression of dread, an awareness that some shadows never truly disappear. For investigators, thrill seekers, and history enthusiasts, the prison offers an unparalleled glimpse into both human cruelty and the possibility that the energy of suffering may linger long after the people themselves are gone. The Joliet Correctional Center stands today as both a historical relic and a center of paranormal intrigue. Its decaying walls, shadow-filled corridors, and the stories of restless spirits combine to create an atmosphere that is impossible to ignore. From the clanging of cell doors to the whispers in empty hallways and the haunting presence of faceless figures, the prison continues to captivate and terrify. Those who walk its halls encounter not only the remnants of a violent and turbulent history, but also the enduring sense that some part of the past refuses to rest, leaving a permanent mark on both the building and all who enter. Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, located in Petros, Tennessee, is a site steeped in history, infamy, and unsettling paranormal activity. Nicknamed the End of the Line, the maximum security prison operated from 1896 until its closure in 2009. Housing some of the state's most notorious criminals, its remote location in the rugged Appalachian foothills and its harsh conditions earned it a reputation as a place where escape was nearly impossible and hope was scarce. Over the decades, Brushy Mountain became infamous for its strict routines, violent incidents, and psychological toll on the men confined within its walls. Today, the penitentiary is as well known for its reported hauntings as it is for its historical significance, drawing visitors eager to witness the echoes of its dark past. The prison's architecture reflects its intimidating purpose. Massive stone walls encircle the facility, while iron gates and barred cell blocks stretch skyward like a fortress. Inside, narrow corridors and tiered cell blocks create long shadows and echoing passageways that amplify every sound. The cells themselves are small and austere, designed for confinement and discipline rather than comfort. Inmates lived under a rigid schedule, performing laborious work during the day and enduring strict lockdowns at night. Over time, These conditions contributed to an atmosphere of tension, despair, and, according to some, lingering supernatural energy. Many visitors report feeling a constant, almost oppressive awareness of unseen eyes tracking them as they explore the abandoned corridors. One of Brushy Mountain's most infamous inmates was James Earl Ray, the convicted assassin of Martin Luther King Jr. Ray spent years in isolation, and his time at the penitentiary was marked by paranoia and intense psychological strain. Stories suggest that even the most hardened criminals found the environment mentally taxing. A place where the constant weight of confinement and fear created lasting psychological scars. Today, some speculate that the energy left by Ray and other inmates contributes to the prison's paranormal reputation. Visitors and investigators alike report hearing the faint sound of voices whispering or calling names, and many claim that cell doors slam shut with no one nearby, as if the building itself remembers the countless lives that passed through it. The courtyard of Brushy Mountain is another hotspot for supernatural encounters. Several visitors have reported seeing apparitions dressed in the traditional, striped prison uniforms wandering the grounds. These figures appear and disappear without warning, moving silently or pausing as though observing those who venture near. Some witnesses describe a sense of overwhelming despair when in the courtyard, a feeling so intense that it is difficult to remain calm. Paranormal teams often note that the energy in this area feels heavier than elsewhere, as though the suffering of past inmates lingers just beneath the surface. Even on clear, sunny days, visitors report a chill in the air and a sensation of being watched, evidence that the prison's history of isolation and hardship continues to manifest. Inside the cell blocks, the atmosphere is thick with the weight of memory. Long rows of iron doors, once the home to hundreds of men, now stand silent, yet the sounds of the past seem to echo through the empty hallways. Footsteps echo in tandem with the viewer's own, and faint murmurs rise and fall like the remnants of long-past conversations. Some report sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature, particularly near areas where solitary confinement was practiced, and many describe a sense of unease that grows as they move deeper into the prison's interior. Paranormal investigators have captured audio recordings of whispers, distant screams, and door clangs that appear without any logical source, reinforcing the perception that Brushy Mountain is a site of lingering unrest. Visitors to the penitentiary often speak of a sensation that is hard to describe, a weight that seems to press down on the shoulders, a feeling of unease that intensifies as one walks through the hallways. Some report the sensation of being followed, hearing footsteps pacing behind them, only to turn and find the corridors empty. Others claim to catch glimpses of figures at the edge of their vision, vanishing the moment they focus. These experiences are particularly common near the older cell blocks and in areas connected to violent incidents or solitary confinement. The accumulation of decades of suffering appears to have left an imprint on the building, creating an environment where past and present blur, and the spirits of former inmates remain just out of reach. The prison's history of labor, punishment, and strict discipline also contributes to its haunting atmosphere. Inmates spent long hours performing physically demanding work, from manufacturing goods to maintaining the prison grounds, often under harsh supervision. The combination of exhaustion, isolation, and constant vigilance created intense stress, and many prisoners succumbed to illness or injury. Today, visitors report hearing the faint clatter of tools or the dragging of objects, sounds that seem to echo the daily routines of men long gone. Paranormal investigators suggest that the emotional and physical residue of these hardships may be responsible for some of the activity, creating a place where the struggles of the past continue to echo in the present. Accounts of apparitions are not limited to visual phenomena. Many people report hearing disembodied voices, some shouting, others whispering names or repeating phrases from long ago. The sounds often appear in places that were once sites of violence or isolation, suggesting a link between suffering and supernatural manifestation. Cell doors frequently clang without explanation, and some visitors feel sudden touches or the sensation of being jostled in otherwise empty hallways. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile experiences makes Brushy Mountain a compelling sight for those interested in both history and the paranormal. Despite its closure in 2009, Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary remains a powerful symbol of confinement, human suffering, and the enduring legacy of a difficult past. Its towering walls, crumbling cell blocks, and eerie atmosphere continue to captivate visitors, historians, and paranormal investigators. From the apparitions in striped uniforms wandering the courtyard to the phantom footsteps echoing through the cell blocks, the penitentiary offers a chilling glimpse into the lives of those who were confined here. Every creaking floorboard and slam of a door seems to whisper the stories of despair, fear, and relentless observation, ensuring that the legacy of Brushy Mountain lives on, both in history and in haunting presence. The Yuma Territorial Prison, perched on the arid banks of the Colorado River in Yuma, Arizona, has long been regarded as one of the harshest and most unforgiving correctional facilities in American history. Opened in 1876, the prison earned the ominous nickname Hellhole due to its brutal conditions, extreme desert heat, and relentless isolation. Constructed to contain some of the most dangerous and desperate criminals of the Arizona Territory, the prison quickly gained a reputation not only for its physical hardships, but also for the psychological torment it inflicted on inmates. Over its years of operation, the Yuma Territorial Prison became synonymous with suffering, punishment, and despair, leaving behind a legacy that some say lingers in the form of restless spirits and unexplainable phenomena. Life inside the prison was grueling. The desert sun scorched the inmates during the day, and the dry, frigid nights offered little relief. Water was scarce, and the cells were crowded, stifling, and often unsanitary. Prisoners endured long hours of forced labor, performing tasks under strict supervision, while the threat of violence from both guards and fellow inmates was a constant presence. The combination of heat, dehydration, and confinement pushed many men to the brink of madness. The most feared punishment within the facility was the infamous dark cell, a pitch-black room used to isolate inmates who misbehaved or resisted authority. Prisoners confined there were left in total darkness for days at a time, deprived of light, sound, and human contact, often emerging in a state of extreme psychological distress. Visitors to the Yuma Territorial Prison today often report a lingering sense of oppression, as if the despair of the past has seeped into the very walls. In the cell blocks, tourists describe sudden drops in temperature and icy drafts that seem impossible in the desert heat. Some claim to feel cold hands brushing against them, though no one else is present, while faint whispers rise from empty cells, calling out names or murmuring indistinct warnings. The combination of physical sensations and auditory anomalies has led many to believe that the suffering of past inmates remains trapped within the prison, replaying itself in echoes that modern visitors can perceive. The dark cell continues to fascinate paranormal enthusiasts. Stories describe shadowy forms moving just beyond the edge of vision, and some report hearing muffled cries and desperate moans emanating from the sealed, pitch-black spaces. Investigators have recorded faint voices and unexplainable sounds, often coinciding with areas that were historically used for punishment or solitary confinement. The atmosphere of the cell blocks is heavy and tense, a reflection of the torment that defined life for the men imprisoned here. Each corridor, doorway, and barred cell seems to carry an invisible weight, pressing down on those who enter, as if the memories of anguish are embedded in the structure itself. One of the most haunting figures associated with the Yuma Territorial Prison is a woman in a red dress, who is said to appear near the cemetery where many prisoners were buried. Witnesses describe her as weeping quietly, mourning the souls of those lost to the harsh conditions of the prison. The story suggests she may be a spectral caretaker or a grieving relative of the deceased. Her presence a reminder of the human costs of the penitentiary's unforgiving regime. Some visitors have reported feeling sudden chills, hearing sobs or soft crying, and glimpsing a fleeting figure moving among the graves, disappearing before it can be fully seen. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena makes this apparition one of the most persistent and chilling elements of the prison's paranormal lore. In addition to these personal apparitions, the Yuma Territorial Prison is said to be home to residual energy from decades of suffering. Footsteps echo through the empty hallways, seemingly without source, while cell doors clang open and shut on their own. Visitors frequently report an overwhelming sense of being watched, as if unseen eyes follow their movements through the corridors. Paranormal investigators have documented these occurrences, capturing audio anomalies, temperature fluctuations. These manifestations are most common in areas associated with punishment, isolation, or death, suggesting that the energy of past inmates has left a lasting imprint on the building. The harsh desert environment surrounding the prison adds to the eerie atmosphere. The relentless sun, stark landscapes, and remote location give the facility a sense of isolation that extends beyond its walls. Even today, visitors comment on the oppressive heat and the feeling of emptiness, as though the prison stands apart from the world, suspended in time. The combination of extreme weather, historical suffering, and reported paranormal activity makes Yuma Territorial Prison a uniquely unsettling experience, where both human history and spectral presence converge. Tourists exploring the prison often describe a mixture of awe and unease. The historical significance of the site is undeniable. It represents an early era of law enforcement, harsh penal practices, and territorial expansion in the American West. Yet the paranormal reports cannot be ignored. Shadowy figures, icy touches, whispers, and the weeping woman in red all contribute to a sense that the prison's past has not fully released its grip. Visitors leave with a lingering impression of despair and mystery, a reminder that the building's history is not confined to books or plaques, but lives on in an active and chilling presence. The Yuma Territorial Prison, known as the Hellhole, stands as a powerful symbol of punishment, human suffering, and lingering memory. From the extreme heat endured by inmates to the psychological torment of the dark cell, every corner of the prison carries echoes of its violent and tragic past. Apparitions in striped uniforms wander the cell blocks, icy hands touch the living, and whispers from empty rooms speak of lost souls. The woman in the red dress, mourning near the cemetery, embodies the grief and unresolved energy that pervade the site. For those willing to explore its history and confront its ghostly presence, the prison offers a harrowing glimpse into a world of pain, endurance, and lingering spectral echoes, ensuring that the story of the Yuma Territorial Prison is as haunting today as it was over a century ago. The Missouri State Penitentiary in Jefferson City, Missouri, is a sprawling and ominous structure whose history stretches over 170 years. As one of the oldest prisons west of the Mississippi, it has earned the chilling nickname, the bloodiest 47 acres in America. Its long and violent past includes countless riots, brutal murders, and a steady stream of executions, leaving an indelible mark not only on the inmates and staff who lived through its darker days, but also on the prison itself. Today, the penitentiary stands as a historic landmark and a hotspot for paranormal activity, drawing visitors, ghost hunters, and investigators eager to experience the lingering echoes of its turbulent past. The architecture of the prison contributes to its menacing presence. Massive stone walls, narrow hallways, and iron-barred cells create an atmosphere of confinement and oppression. Each corridor amplifies the smallest sound, the clang of a door, the echo of footsteps, transforming them into unnerving reverberations that seem to follow visitors as they move through the facility. The cell blocks, once home to violent criminals, reflect decades of harsh discipline, overcrowding, and fear. Solitary confinement cells, in particular, are said to carry the emotional weight of the isolation and despair that inmates endured, creating areas of intense paranormal activity that many visitors find overwhelming. Death row is the most notorious section of the penitentiary, a place where the echoes of past violence are most pronounced. Guests often report hearing anguished screams, shouts, or cries of despair, seemingly emanating from empty cells. Shadowy figures are frequently spotted drifting silently past the bars, disappearing when approached. The smell of cigar smoke is another recurring phenomenon, appearing without explanation and often attributed to the lingering presence of former inmates or guards. These occurrences create a chilling sense that the spirits of the past remain tethered to the building, replaying their anguish and unrest for those who enter. The penitentiary's history of violence amplifies its haunted reputation. Riots were common, often sparked by disputes between inmates or clashes with guards. These disturbances sometimes escalated into deadly confrontations, leaving scars, both physical and psychological. Executions added another layer of terror, carried out in a cold, calculated manner that left little room for dignity. The combined weight of fear, anger, and grief has left a residue that many believe manifests as paranormal activity today. Footsteps echo in empty corridors, doors slam on their own, and fleeting shadows appear where no one stands, all suggesting that the prison is alive with the memories of its violent past. Many visitors describe tactile and visual experiences that defy explanation. Cold spots appear suddenly, often accompanied by a feeling of dread or the sensation of being watched. Some report phantom touches or pressure on their shoulders, while others see shadowy figures pacing cell blocks or standing silently in hallways. Occasionally, faint orbs of light are captured in photographs, moving as if alive. These phenomena are particularly common in areas associated with punishment, executions, or past violence, reinforcing the idea that the emotional intensity of the past has left a lasting imprint on the building. Paranormal investigators frequently cite the Missouri State Penitentiary as one of the most active and compelling haunted locations in the United States. Their recordings often capture disembodied voices, moans, and unexplained noises, while visual anomalies, such as shadow figures or moving lights, are common. The consistency of these reports across multiple decades suggests that the penitentiary's hauntings are not isolated incidents, but rather a persistent presence connected to its history of suffering and death. Walking through the Missouri State Penitentiary is an experience that blends historical insight with chilling encounters. Visitors feel the weight of the prison's past in every corridor, cell, and execution site. The combination of shadowy figures, phantom sounds, sudden cold spots, and unexplained odors creates an immersive environment where the past feels alive. The penitentiary serves as a stark reminder that some places carry more than history. They carry the lingering energy of human suffering and unrest. Today, even as the prison stands partially in ruins, its reputation as a haunted site endures. The echoes of screams along death row, the drifting shadows, and the inexplicable cigar smoke ensure that the past is never truly gone. The Missouri State Penitentiary is not just a historical landmark. It is a repository of memory, emotion, and lingering spirits. A place where the weight of over a century and a half of human tragedy continues to be felt by those who walk its halls. Visitors leave with a profound awareness that some of history's most violent chapters do not stay buried. They echo endlessly through the corridors, cell blocks, and stone walls of the bloodiest 47 acres in America. The Old Idaho Penitentiary, located in Boise, Idaho, is a haunting relic of the state's early penal system. Opened in 1872, it housed prisoners for more than a century before finally closing its doors in 1973. During its years of operation, the penitentiary gained notoriety for its harsh punishments, strict discipline, and frequent outbreaks of violence. Riots, fights among inmates, and executions marked the institution's long history, leaving a legacy of suffering that many believe continues to resonate within its stone walls. Today, the penitentiary stands as both a historical site and a center for paranormal investigation, drawing visitors eager to experience the chilling atmosphere that has earned it a reputation as one of the most haunted prisons in the western United States. The architecture of the Old Idaho Penitentiary contributes to its unsettling aura. Massive stone walls enclose the grounds, while narrow corridors and iron-barred cell blocks create a sense of confinement and intimidation. The solitary cells, in particular, are infamous for their small size and lack of light or comfort. Prisoners confined here often endured extreme isolation, psychological stress, and harsh conditions that sometimes led to madness or despair. Visitors today frequently report a palpable tension when entering these areas, describing sudden drops in temperature and a heavy feeling of dread that grows with every step. Many claim to hear the faint rattling of chains, the distant echo of footsteps, or whispers that seem to come from empty cells, a chilling reminder of the penitentiary's violent past. Executions at the old Idaho Penitentiary contributed significantly to its haunted reputation. Over the decades, numerous inmates met their end within its walls, some by hanging and others by the state's execution protocols. The final moments of these prisoners are said to have left a residual energy in the building, an emotional imprint that lingers decades later. Visitors and paranormal investigators alike report hearing anguished cries, the clanging of metal doors, and sudden cold spots in areas historically associated with punishment or death. Some guests describe feeling the oppressive presence of unseen entities, especially when exploring sections of the prison that once housed condemned men. The solitary cells, often referred to as the most active areas of the penitentiary, elicit some of the most intense experiences. Visitors have reported a sensation of being choked or restrained by unseen hands, forcing some to flee in fear. The dark, confined spaces amplify both the psychological and paranormal effects, leaving guests with an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. Paranormal teams have documented unusual phenomena in these cells, including cold drafts that seem localized to specific corners, unexplained noises, and sudden visual anomalies. The experiences in solitary confinement cells suggest that the intense suffering endured by inmates has left a lasting mark, one that continues to manifest in ways that are both terrifying and unexplainable. Throughout the prison, unexplained lights and shadows are a common occurrence. Guests report seeing flickering orbs of light moving across hallways, or shadowy figures darting between cells. Some visitors claim that these manifestations seem to interact with them, appearing to follow their movements or vanish when approached. Coupled with the sounds of rattling chains, doors slamming, and distant moaning, these phenomena create an immersive experience that leaves little doubt that the old Idaho Penitentiary is more than a historical site. It is a place alive with the echoes of its dark past. The penitentiary's history of riots and inmate unrest also contributes to its eerie atmosphere. Throughout the years, conflicts among prisoners and between inmates and guards often erupted into violent confrontations. The resulting chaos, injuries, and sometimes deaths left emotional scars that many believe remain embedded in the building. Visitors often report hearing sudden loud noises, the clatter of objects, or ghostly shouting in areas associated with past conflicts. Some even describe an oppressive feeling of anger or frustration, a palpable echo of the emotions that once filled the corridors during times of unrest. Even in areas not directly associated with punishment, visitors report unusual experiences. Hallways and common areas are said to emit cold drafts and unexplained breezes, while strange lights appear in windows or flicker across the stone walls. Footsteps are often heard where no one is present, and some guests claim to feel sudden touches or the brush of hands on their arms or shoulders. Cameras sometimes capture fleeting shadows or orbs, while audio recordings reveal faint voices that seem to whisper unintelligible words. The cumulative effect of these phenomena reinforces the penitentiary's reputation as a hotspot for paranormal activity and makes each visit an intense encounter with the unknown. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to the old Idaho Penitentiary because of the variety and intensity of reported activity, from cold spots to disembodied voices, visual apparitions to sudden physical sensations. The penitentiary provides a wide range of phenomena for those studying the supernatural. Many teams report consistent activity in the same locations, particularly in solitary cells in areas where executions or violent incidents occurred. These repeated reports suggest that the energy left behind by the prisoners may be preserved in the structure itself, manifesting in ways that continue to affect visitors and investigators alike. Despite its closure in 1973, the old Idaho Penitentiary remains a chilling reminder of the harsh realities of incarceration and the human suffering that unfolded within its walls. The rattling chains, icy drafts, and spectral figures all point to a lingering presence that refuses to fade. Visitors who step inside the cell blocks and solitary cells encounter an oppressive atmosphere, one that connects them with the emotional and psychological turmoil of the past. From mysterious lights flickering across hallways to the sensation of unseen hands restraining or touching them, the penitentiary ensures that the echoes of history are never far away. The old Idaho Penitentiary stands today as both a historical landmark and a paranormal hotspot, a place where the legacy of punishment, isolation, and despair continues to manifest in powerful ways. Every cell, corridor, and stairwell tells a story of suffering, cruelty, and survival. Whether through ghostly apparitions, icy drafts, or the sound of rattling chains, the penitentiary offers visitors a haunting glimpse into the past, proving that some places never truly release the echoes of those who endured their darkest hours. The Wyoming Frontier Prison, located in Rawlins, Wyoming, operated from 1901 until 1981 and stands today as a haunting reminder of over 8 decades of incarceration and human suffering. During its years of operation, the prison gained notoriety for its strict discipline, harsh punishments, and grim execution methods. Over 250 deaths were documented within its walls, many resulting from executions carried out in the gallows and the gas chamber, both of which remain infamous today. The facility's long and turbulent history has left a lasting impression, and visitors frequently report chilling paranormal experiences, making the Wyoming Frontier Prison one of the most haunted correctional facilities in the American West. The architecture of the prison contributes to its foreboding presence. Thick stone walls, high barred windows, and long narrow corridors create an atmosphere of confinement and intimidation. Each cell block reflects the rigid discipline and harsh conditions once imposed on the inmates. While the execution areas, the gallows and gas chambers stand as stark reminders of the finality of punishment. Even decades after its closure, the energy of suffering seems embedded in the walls. Visitors often describe a feeling of heaviness when entering the prison, as if the countless tragedies that unfolded within continued to weigh down the air itself. Paranormal activity is especially pronounced in the cell blocks, where ghostly apparitions of former prisoners are frequently reported. Visitors often see figures pacing their cells, sometimes staring from behind bars before vanishing without a trace. Shadows flit at the edges of vision, and sudden cold spots can leave even the most skeptical guests shivering. Many report the sensation of being followed by unseen presences, hearing heavy breathing, or sensing someone standing close behind them. The cumulative trauma of decades of confinement seems to linger, manifesting in ways that are both unsettling and unexplainable. The death house, the section of the prison reserved for executions, is particularly active. Sudden drops in temperature are a common phenomenon here, often accompanied by an overwhelming feeling of doom or despair. Visitors report hearing faint moans or anguished cries, as if the souls of the executed remain tethered to the building. Some claim to see orbs of glowing light hovering near the gas chamber or gallows, flickering as though alive, while others describe ghostly hands brushing against them in empty rooms. The emotional intensity of the death house makes it a focal point for paranormal investigators and a place where even seasoned visitors feel vulnerable and unnerved. Executions at the Wyoming Frontier Prison were often carried out with chilling efficiency, and the psychological weight of those events continues to resonate. Prisoners who were condemned spent their final hours confined in isolation, aware of the fate awaiting them. The gas chamber, in particular, was a site of extreme fear and suffering, leaving an imprint on the prison that is reported to this day. Witnesses have described hearing muffled coughing or gasping in the execution area, sounds that seem impossible in an empty building. These manifestations suggest that the energy of human anguish is preserved in the space, replaying itself for those sensitive to its presence. Other areas of the prison are not exempt from paranormal phenomena. Hallways echo with footsteps, often following visitors as they move through the facility. Doors swing open and shut with no apparent cause, and faint whispers seem to call out from empty cells. Many guests report seeing shadowy figures vanish when approached, and some even feel sudden pressure on their shoulders or arms. These experiences create a sense that the prison itself is alive with the memories of those who lived and died within its walls, refusing to release the energy of its tragic past. In addition to apparitions and unexplained sounds, glowing orbs are a frequently reported phenomenon. Visitors often photograph or record small spheres of light that drift through cell blocks, hallways, or the death house, appearing to move with purpose. Some researchers interpret these orbs as manifestations of spirits, lingering remnants of the prisoners who spent their lives confined in the harsh conditions of the Wyoming frontier prison. The presence of these orbs adds a visual component to the already intense auditory and tactile experiences reported by visitors, creating an immersive and chilling environment. Paranormal investigators have consistently ranked the Wyoming frontier prison as one of the most active and compelling sites for ghostly encounters in the United States. Their recordings often capture unusual audio, such as disembodied voices, moans, or whispers, as well as visual anomalies like shadow figures or moving lights. Many teams report that the same areas of the prison are consistently active, particularly the cell blocks and the death house, suggesting that the energy of the past remains localized in spaces where suffering and death were most concentrated. Visitors to the prison often describe the experience as both fascinating and terrifying. The combination of historical significance and paranormal activity creates an atmosphere that is impossible to ignore. Walking through the cell blocks, observing the execution areas, and exploring the narrow corridors gives a tangible sense of the hardships endured by inmates, while the ghostly manifestations ensure that the past is never truly gone. The heavy breathing, the pacing apparitions, the sudden drops in temperature, and the glowing orbs all serve as reminders that the Wyoming frontier prison is not merely a historical site, but a place where history continues to interact with the present, even decades after its closure. The Wyoming frontier prison stands as a monument to human suffering, strict justice, and the lingering presence of those who never left. The gallows and gas chamber, the echoing corridors, and the restless cell blocks combine to create an environment steeped in both history and the supernatural. Visitors leave with an awareness that some prisons carry more than the memories of the living. They hold the spirits of the past, replaying anguish, despair, and unrest. The Wyoming frontier prison is one such place, a haunting reminder of the thin line between life and death, punishment and torment, and the enduring weight of human suffering. Folsom State Prison, located in Represa, California, is one of the most infamous correctional facilities in American history. Opened in 1880, the prison has endured more than a century of violence, unrest, and human suffering, earning a reputation as one of the toughest institutions in the nation. Its notoriety was cemented in popular culture when Johnny Cash performed his legendary prison concert in 1968. But beyond the music lies a dark and bloody past that continues to haunt the facility. Riots, murders, and harsh punishments were common throughout its history, and many believe that the suffering and anger of inmates have left a lasting paranormal imprint on the prison's corridors, cell blocks, and execution sites. The architecture of Folsom State Prison contributes to its intimidating presence. Massive stone walls, iron-barred cell blocks, and narrow hallways create an oppressive environment that mirrors the strict discipline once enforced within. The cell blocks themselves are long and echoing, making every sound from footsteps to the clang of a metal door resonate through the facility. Inmates endured overcrowding, harsh labor, and relentless surveillance, with guards enforcing rules with extreme rigidity. Such conditions often led to violent outbursts and riots, leaving emotional and physical scars on both prisoners and staff. Today, visitors to Folsom frequently report an overwhelming sense of oppression, as if the emotional residue of decades of confinement lingers in the air. Paranormal activity is reported throughout the prison, with many hotspots concentrated near the older cell blocks. Guards and inmates alike have spoken of seeing shadowy figures drifting through corridors, figures that vanish when approached, often hovering near doorways or in empty cells where no one else was present. These apparitions are frequently described as dark, indistinct forms, their presence accompanied by sudden chills or a sensation of being watched. The atmosphere is thick with tension, and even those familiar with the building's history report feeling a heightened sense of unease upon entering. The sounds within Folsom State Prison are particularly eerie. Reports of phantom music are common, with some visitors claiming to hear the faint strains of old melodies, reminiscent of Johnny Cash's concert, though in unsettling contexts. These sounds are often accompanied by moans, cries, or whispers, echoing down the long corridors of the cell blocks. Paranormal investigators have recorded audio anomalies of voices calling names, indistinct phrases, and heavy footsteps in areas where no one is physically present. The combination of auditory and visual phenomena reinforces the sense that the past is not confined to history. Booksit actively interacts with the living in ways that are both fascinating and terrifying. The prison's violent history contributes to its haunted reputation. Riots and fights among inmates frequently erupted over territory, power, or retaliation. Guards sometimes lost control of the population, and the resulting chaos left scars on the institution's collective memory. Executions and long-term solitary confinement added another layer of psychological and emotional weight, amplifying the prison's oppressive aura. Visitors report that certain areas, particularly older cell blocks and execution sites, feel heavy with emotion, as though the suffering endured there continues to linger in the shadows. In addition to shadowy figures, Folsom is known for sudden temperature drops and strange tactile sensations. Guests frequently report icy drafts in otherwise warm areas, or the sensation of hands brushing against them when no one is nearby. These experiences are especially common near cells that housed violent or high-profile inmates, suggesting that the intense emotions of those confined may have left residual energy within the structure. The interplay of cold air, unexplained sounds, and visual phenomena creates a deeply immersive environment for anyone exploring the prison today. One particularly haunting aspect of Folsom State Prison is the way its history intersects with popular culture. Johnny Cash's performance, though a historic event, seems to have left an energetic mark on the facility. Paranormal enthusiasts have reported hearing ghostly music echoing through the hallways, sometimes accompanied by fleeting shadows or visual anomalies. Visitors describe feeling a strange mixture of nostalgia and unease, as though the echoes of both entertainment and suffering coexist in the same space. This blending of historical reality and paranormal presence gives Folsom a unique character, making it a compelling site for both history buffs and ghost hunters. Photographs taken by visitors often reveal unexplained figures or anomalies. Shadows that appear to move independently of anyone present are commonly reported, and orbs of light frequently appear in areas associated with high levels of tension or conflict. These visual manifestations, combined with the auditory and tactile phenomena, provide compelling evidence to many that the prison is far from empty. The presence of these entities is subtle but undeniable, creating a chilling atmosphere that reinforces the building's reputation as one of America's most haunted prisons. The experiences reported at Folsom State Prison are not limited to the casual visitor. Paranormal investigators frequently document consistent activity, particularly in areas with a documented history of violence or punishment. Shadow figures, pacing cells, unexplained music, heavy breathing. Investigators suggest that the intensity and variety of paranormal activity are directly linked to the prison's long and violent history, where the combination of human suffering, fear, and anger left an imprint on the building itself. Today, Folsom State Prison stands as both a historical landmark and a paranormal hotspot. Its long corridors, heavy cell doors, and imposing architecture tell a story of discipline, violence, and endurance, while the reported ghostly activity ensures that the past is never far away. From phantom music drifting through hallways to shadowy figures appearing in photographs, the prison offers visitors a vivid connection to its history and the restless spirits who may remain within. For those who walk its cell blocks, the experience is a chilling reminder that some places carry the weight of history not just in records, but in lingering, spectral echoes. The Charleston Old City Jail, located in Charleston, South Carolina, is a historic and notoriously haunted site, blending centuries of human suffering with chilling folklore. Built in 1802, this Gothic-style jail served as a holding facility for a wide range of prisoners, from pirates and Civil War captives to notorious murderers. For more than a century, until its closure in 1939, the jail bore witness to countless executions, violent altercations, and episodes of extreme fear and despair. Today, it is renowned not only for its historical significance, but also for its paranormal activity, drawing ghost hunters, tourists, and curious visitors eager to experience the unsettling energy that lingers in its stone walls. The architecture of the Charleston Old City Jail amplifies its foreboding atmosphere. With towering stone walls, narrow corridors, and small iron-barred cells, the building was designed to intimidate and control. Each corridor echoes with the footsteps of those who once walked its halls, and the Gothic arches and dimly lit rooms create shadows that stretch unnaturally across floors and walls. Visitors often report an immediate feeling of unease upon entering, a sensation that seems to grow stronger as they venture deeper into the jail as darkened cell blocks. The combination of the building's imposing architecture and its violent history creates a palpable tension, making it easy to imagine the fears of those who were imprisoned within. Many of the jail's most notorious residents left behind stories that continue to haunt the building. Among them is Lavinia Fisher, often cited as America's first female serial killer. Legends suggest she tortured and killed unsuspecting travelers in Charleston before being captured and incarcerated. Today, visitors and staff alike report sensing her presence in certain hallways and cells. Her apparition is described as a shadowy figure, often appearing at the end of a corridor or inside empty cells. Her presence accompanied by an icy chill that seems to drain the warmth from the air. Some claim to hear her laughter or whispers, echoing faintly yet distinctly through the jail's stone walls, reinforcing her eerie reputation and the building's haunted nature. Executions were a grim reality at the Charleston Old City Jail, and the emotional residue of these events contributes heavily to its haunted reputation. Prisoners condemned to death were often terrified, their last moments filled with panic, anger, and despair. Visitors today report hearing anguished cries or screaming that seems to rise from empty execution chambers or along the hallways where prisoners were led to their deaths. Footsteps echo in spaces where no one is present, and doors sometimes swing open or shut on their own. These phenomena suggest that the fear, pain, and unresolved emotions of those who died within the jail remain imprinted on the building, manifesting as the ghostly activity reported by countless witnesses. The jail also served as a holding facility for pirates and Civil War prisoners, which added layers of tension, violence, and hardship to its history. Inmates endured harsh conditions, overcrowding, and the constant threat of punishment. Accounts of physical altercations, attempted escapes, and punishment for minor infractions were common. Visitors frequently report the sense of being watched, accompanied by unexplained chills, sudden drops in temperature, and fleeting shadows that appear along the corridors. Paranormal investigators suggest that the intensity of human emotion, fear, anger, and sorrow can become embedded in a location, and the Charleston Old City Jail is a textbook example of this phenomenon. Many guests describe the soundscape of the jail as particularly unnerving. Phantom footsteps are often heard pacing the hallways, sometimes following visitors or echoing along corridors in ways that defy logic. In addition to footsteps, witnesses report ghostly moans, cries, and whispers, seemingly emanating from the very walls of the building. Some have captured audio of faint voices on recording devices, including indecipherable murmurs or urgent calls for help. These sounds often occur in areas associated with violent events or executions, suggesting a connection between historical trauma and the paranormal activity observed today. Visual phenomena are also commonly reported. Shadowy figures have been seen moving past cell doors, disappearing into walls, or standing silently at the end of hallways. Orbs of light, often described as faint, glowing spheres, are occasionally captured in photographs or video, appearing to move with purpose through the corridors. Some visitors report seeing full-bodied apparitions dressed in period clothing, particularly in areas linked to notorious prisoners or violent events. These manifestations contribute to the overall sense that the jail is alive with the presence of its past residents, replaying moments of anguish, fear, and unrest. The Charleston Old City Jail has become a magnet for paranormal investigators and tourists, many of whom seek to document or experience its supernatural activity firsthand. Investigators frequently report consistent patterns of phenomena, including cold spots, unexplained noises, shadowy figures, and tactile experiences, such as the sensation of being touched or brushed by an unseen hand. Visitors often leave the jail deeply affected, describing a lingering sense of tension and unease that can persist long after leaving the premises. These experiences reinforce the idea that the energy of the past is not merely a story, but an active presence that continues to affect those who enter the jail. Beyond its haunted reputation, the jail serves as a tangible reminder of Charleston's complex and often violent history. Each cell, corridor, and chamber tells a story of punishment, survival, and human suffering. The reported ghostly activity, the screams, footsteps, and apparition serves as a haunting testament to the lives affected by incarceration and violence within its walls. Visitors experience more than just historical curiosity. They are confronted with the emotional and spiritual remnants of the past, which manifest in ways that are both frightening and compelling. Today, the Charleston Old City Jail remains a place where history and the supernatural intersect. From the ghostly cries and footsteps to the chilling presence of Lavinia Fisher and other specters, the jail embodies the weight of centuries of suffering. Every corridor and cell block carries echoes of the past, ensuring that the memories of those who lived, suffered, and died within continue to linger. For visitors brave enough to walk its halls, the jail offers a haunting glimpse into the darker side of human history and the enduring power of spirits that refuse to rest. San Quentin State Prison, located in San Rafael, California, is one of the most infamous correctional facilities in the United States. With a history steeped in violence, punishment, and death. Established in 1852, it is the oldest prison in California still in operation today, and its reputation for brutality has only grown over the decades. Known for its high security measures, strict discipline, and notorious inmates, San Quentin has witnessed countless violent incidents, riots, and executions. From the very beginning, the prison's environment has been harsh, designed to instill fear and maintain order. Today, visitors, guards, and prisoners alike report strange occurrences, from ghostly apparitions to unexplained sounds, suggesting that the energy of the past still lingers within its walls. The architecture of San Quentin contributes significantly to its eerie presence. Long, narrow corridors lined with iron-barred cells create an oppressive atmosphere, while the echoing footsteps of guards or inmates carry unnaturally down the hallways. The cell blocks, some of which are decades old, are known for their cramped and harsh conditions, where prisoners endured constant surveillance, overcrowding, and the threat of violence. Solitary confinement cells, often called the hole, were particularly notorious for their psychological impact, leaving inmates isolated for days or weeks at a time. Visitors report that these areas have an oppressive energy, with sudden drops in temperature and a suffocating feeling of despair that seems almost tangible. The prison's execution chamber is one of the most chilling locations within San Quentin. It has been the site of numerous state-sanctioned deaths, including lethal injections carried out under California's capital punishment system. Many believe that the intense emotions of men facing their final moments, the fear, anger, and grief remain embedded in the space. Guards and staff have reported hearing phantom footsteps, muffled cries, and whispers in the execution area, even when it is empty. Some describe a heavy, almost tangible presence, as if the spirits of those executed have never truly left. Paranormal investigators often focus on this area, capturing electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, and temperature anomalies that suggest the lingering energy of past inmates continues to affect the living. The cell blocks themselves are rife with reported paranormal activity. Shadowy figures are often seen pacing cells or standing silently in corners before vanishing when approached. Visitors frequently report hearing voices calling their names, moans of anguish, and unexplained clanging or banging from empty cells. Some have described feeling sudden touches, pressure on their shoulders, or the sensation of being watched. These experiences are especially pronounced in areas associated with violent incidents or punishment, suggesting that the emotional intensity of past events has left an imprint on the prison's environment. San Quentin has also been the site of numerous violent riots throughout its history, each leaving its mark on the facility. Clashes between inmates and between prisoners and guards often escalated into deadly encounters, causing physical and emotional scars that persist in the collective memory of the prison. Visitors report that certain hallways or cell blocks carry a feeling of tension or hostility, a residual echo of past violence. Doors swing open and shut on their own. Footsteps echo without origin, and shadows flit across walls in ways that defy explanation. These phenomena contribute to the prison's reputation as a location where the past continues to interact with the present. The experience of those incarcerated also plays a role in the prison's haunting. Overcrowding, strict discipline, and psychological stress created an environment of constant fear and tension. Solitary confinement and the threat of violence left many prisoners in a state of prolonged anxiety and despair. Paranormal investigators suggest that such intense emotions can leave a lasting imprint, resulting in apparitions, sudden temperature drops, and unexplained noises reported by both staff and visitors. In San Quentin, these manifestations are reported throughout the prison, but are particularly concentrated in areas with a history of violence or death. Unexplained sounds are a common phenomenon throughout the facility. Footsteps echo along empty hallways, doors clang or swing without cause, and muffled voices or anguished cries can be heard in empty cells. Some visitors have captured electronic recordings of faint whispers or distant yelling, with no identifiable source. These auditory experiences, combined with visual sightings of shadowy figures or apparitions, create an environment that is both unnerving and immersive, leaving guests with a strong impression that the energy of the past is still present. Visual anomalies are also frequently reported. Shadows are seen pacing cells, standing at the end of corridors, or disappearing behind walls. Some witnesses describe full-bodied apparitions resembling prisoners in historical uniforms or guards from earlier decades. Flickering lights, orbs of luminescence, and inexplicable movement of objects are also common. These manifestations reinforce the idea that San Quentin is not just a functional prison, but a repository of human energy, emotion, and unresolved tension. Paranormal investigators and curious visitors alike are drawn to San Quentin, not only for its historical significance, but also for its persistent ghostly activity. The combination of architectural confinement, historical violence, executions, and psychological stress creates a unique environment where paranormal phenomena are frequently reported. Shadowy figures, sudden cold spots, unexplained sounds, and tactile sensations ensure that the prison continues to attract those interested in the supernatural. Today, San Quentin State Prison remains an active facility, Yet its history and reputation for hauntings are impossible to ignore. The execution chamber, cell blocks, and hallways all carry echoes of the past, manifesting as ghostly activity that affects visitors, staff, and inmates alike. From phantom footsteps to apparitions and the lingering sense of despair, the prison is a stark reminder that history, especially a violent and tragic history, never fully disappears. Those who walk its corridors confront not only the realities of incarceration, but also the lingering spirits of the men who lived, suffered, and died within its walls. The Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, located in Atlanta, Georgia, is a historic prison with a long and violent past. Built in 1902, it quickly became known for housing some of the country's most notorious criminals, and for its strict, often brutal enforcement of prison rules. Over the decades, the penitentiary witnessed countless violent incidents, leaving an enduring imprint of fear and suffering on its walls. Even though the prison has undergone modernization and changes over the years, reports of paranormal activity continue to emerge, suggesting that the energy of the past has never fully left the facility. From the moment one steps onto the grounds, the penitentiary's imposing architecture evokes a sense of unease. Massive brick walls, iron-barred windows, and towering guard towers create an atmosphere of confinement and control. The corridors are long, narrow, and echoing, amplifying even the smallest noises. Footsteps, the clang of doors, and the occasional creak of the structure resonate unnervingly, giving visitors the impression that the building itself is alive with the memories of its violent past. Guards and inmates alike have reported feeling watched, as though unseen eyes follow their every move, particularly in areas associated with older cell blocks and solitary confinement. Solitary cells, in particular, are infamous within the penitentiary. Designed to isolate and punish inmates, these small, dark rooms often left prisoners in near-total darkness for days at a time. The psychological toll of such confinement was immense, with many prisoners descending into despair, hallucinations, or outright madness. Today, visitors to the solitary areas often report cold spots, sudden drops in temperature, and a suffocating feeling of dread. Phantom footsteps echo within the rooms, and some guests feel as though invisible hands brush against them, a chilling reminder of the torment that once occurred there. Paranormal investigators frequently target these cells, capturing electronic voice phenomena, unexplained sounds, and fleeting visual anomalies that seem impossible to attribute to natural causes. The penitentiary's history of executions also contributes to its haunted reputation. Executed prisoners, some notorious for violent crimes, are believed by many to have left lingering energy within the prison walls. Visitors and staff have reported disembodied screams and wails echoing through the hallways, sometimes accompanied by shadowy figures lingering near execution-related areas. These apparitions are often described as dark, indistinct shapes that vanish when approached, but leave behind a heavy sense of despair. The cumulative effect of countless deaths, riots, and acts of violence seems to have created an environment where the past continually bleeds into the present. Violence within the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary was not limited to executions. Riots and inmate altercations were frequent, often escalating into deadly confrontations. Guards and staff faced extreme danger in maintaining order, and the memories of these violent encounters seemed to linger in the building. Reports of doors slamming shut on their own, disembodied voices shouting orders or insults, and fleeting shadows moving across corridors suggest that the prison is haunted not only by the spirits of those who died, but also by the intensity of the conflicts that define daily life within its walls. Visitors frequently describe a pervasive sense of tension and fear that hangs in the air, as though the building itself remembers the turmoil that occurred within it. Auditory phenomena are among the most commonly reported experiences at the penitentiary. Phantom footsteps echo along hallways where no one is present, while screams and groans are often heard in the stillness of old cell blocks. Some visitors claim to hear whispered voices calling their names or shouting unintelligible phrases, seemingly coming from the very walls. These sounds, combined with occasional visual sightings of shadowy figures, create a deeply immersive experience, leaving guests unsettled and aware of the penitentiary's dark history in a visceral way. Visual sightings are also frequently reported. Shadowy figures are seen pacing cells or standing silently at the ends of hallways, sometimes disappearing through walls or corners when approached. Some witnesses describe more solid apparitions resembling prisoners or guards from earlier eras. Their presence accompanied by a palpable sense of sorrow, anger, or hostility. Orbs of light and other visual anomalies are occasionally captured on cameras, moving unpredictably through the hallways and adding to the sense that the prison is a place where the past refuses to remain buried. Despite the modernization and renovations the facility has undergone over the years, the haunting energy of the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary seems undiminished. Many believe that the combination of extreme suffering, isolation, violence, and death has left a permanent imprint on the building. Paranormal investigators continue to document unusual phenomena, while visitors report experiences that range from eerie chills and sudden cold spots to full encounters with shadowy, human-like forms. Walking through the penitentiary today is an experience that combines historical insight with unsettling paranormal activity. The architecture, the heavy iron doors, and the narrow corridors create an immersive environment, while the residual energy of past inmates and violent events amplifies the sense of dread. Shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, disembodied screams, and sudden temperature drops serve as reminders that the history of the prison is not confined to books or records. It lives on in the very air, walls, and floors of the facility. The Atlanta Federal Penitentiary remains one of America's most fascinating and haunted prisons. Visitors leave with a profound awareness of the suffering, fear, and anger that once dominated the halls. The presence of restless spirits, unexplained noises, and shadowy apparitions ensures that the prison's history is not just remembered but actively experienced by those who enter. For anyone walking its corridors today, the penitentiary is a chilling reminder that some histories refuse to remain in the past. They linger, echoing through the halls and watching silently from the shadows. The old Montana State Prison in Deer Lodge, Montana, is a formidable structure whose dark history has left a lasting impression on both its walls and the land around it. Operational from 1871 until 1979, this prison became notorious for its harsh conditions, violent inmates, and frequent riots. Over more than a century, it saw countless escapes, assaults, and deaths, creating an environment charged with tension, fear, and suffering. Today, the penitentiary stands as a historic site and a focal point for paranormal investigations, drawing visitors who seek both the stories of the past and the chilling supernatural experiences that continue to unfold within its walls. The architecture of the old Montana State Prison reflects its grim purpose. Massive stone walls, narrow iron-barred cells, and long, echoing corridors create a sense of confinement and unease. The design, intended to enforce discipline and control, also contributes to the eerie atmosphere that pervades the prison to this day. Visitors report feeling watched from darkened corners, with shadows seeming to shift along the walls even when no one is present. The combination of the building's imposing structure and its violent history makes every step inside feel weighted with the memories of decades of suffering. The prison's history is riddled with violent incidents and unrest, the most infamous being the 1959 riot. During this upheaval, inmates overwhelmed guards in parts of the facility, resulting in multiple deaths on both sides. The riot left the prison scarred, and many believe that the energy of that day has never fully dissipated. Visitors report sudden chills in areas associated with the riot, along with unexplained noises, doors slamming, and the sound of footsteps echoing through empty corridors. The memory of that violent event seems to linger, creating an atmosphere where the past feels alarmingly close. The cell blocks are particularly active, with numerous reports of paranormal activity from visitors and investigators. Full-bodied apparitions have been seen pacing the corridors or standing silently in cells, often vanishing when approached. Shadowy figures appear at the ends of hallways or just outside cell doors, giving the impression that the spirits of past inmates continue to inhabit the spaces where they once lived and suffered. Some visitors report sudden feelings of dread or despair, as though they are sensing the emotional residue left behind by decades of confinement, fear, and violence. Doors slamming without cause are a common phenomenon at the old Montana State Prison. Visitors frequently recount experiencing metal doors swinging open or shutting suddenly, often accompanied by loud bangs or creaks that echo throughout the hallways. These unexplained occurrences are most often reported in areas associated with punishment, solitary confinement, or high-tension incidents, reinforcing the belief that the intense emotional energy of past prisoners continues to manifest physically within the prison. Auditory phenomena are another hallmark of the prison's hauntings. Scream, moans, and indistinct voices are frequently heard in the corridors and cell blocks, sometimes seeming to call out the names of visitors or prisoners long gone. These disembodied sounds often appear in the quietest moments, startling those who explore the facility and creating a sense of living history intertwined with the supernatural. Investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, in multiple areas, further supporting claims that the prison is haunted by its violent past. In addition to auditory and physical manifestations, the prison is known for unexplained visual phenomena. Guests have reported seeing mist-like figures emerging from cells, shadowy forms drifting along corridors, and occasionally more solid apparitions resembling prisoners in period clothing. These sightings are frequently accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, cold spots, or an overwhelming feeling of unease, heightening the sensation that the prison is not just a historical site, but an active nexus of paranormal energy. The history of harsh conditions at the old Montana State Prison contributes heavily to its haunting. Prisoners endured overcrowding, unsanitary conditions, and strict discipline, with solitary confinement and physical punishment being common. The psychological and emotional toll on inmates was severe, leaving behind a residue of fear, anger, and despair. Paranormal investigators suggest that such intense human emotion can become embedded in a location, resulting in the persistent ghostly activity reported by visitors today. Even decades after its closure, the prison continues to draw people interested in its dark past and paranormal reputation. Tours, investigations, and historical explorations offer a glimpse into the lives of the men who lived in many cases, died within its walls. Every corridor, cell, and shadowed corner serves as a reminder of the violence, fear, and unrest that characterized the prison for more than a century. The combination of architectural confinement, historical trauma, and violent incidents ensures that the energy of the old Montana State Prison remains potent and palpable. Visitors often leave the facility deeply affected, reporting a lingering sense of tension and the unnerving impression that the spirits of the past have followed them beyond the prison walls. The old Montana State Prison is not merely a relic of history. It is a place where the suffering, anger, and anguish of past inmates continue to resonate. Doors slam, screams echo, shadowy figures drift, and the weight of over a century of human conflict and punishment permeates every stone and corridor. For those who enter its gates, the prison is a living monument to the dark side of human experience, a reminder that the past often refuses to remain buried, replaying its horrors for anyone daring enough to witness them. The Lorton Reformatory in Lorton, Virginia, is a sprawling and ominous complex whose history stretches across nearly a century. Established in 1910, the facility operated for almost 90 years before closing its doors in 2001. Leaving behind a legacy of harsh treatment, strict discipline, and human suffering. Originally designed to house inmates from the District of Columbia, the prison became notorious for its severe conditions, overcrowding, and frequent outbreaks of violence. Over time, the emotional and physical toll on prisoners created an environment saturated with fear, despair, and tension. Today, Lorton Reformatory stands partially in ruins, yet its decaying walls, shadowed corridors, and abandoned cells continue to draw visitors, historians, and paranormal investigators eager to experience the lingering energy of its troubled past. The architecture of Lorton Reformatory contributes significantly to its eerie atmosphere. Massive brick buildings, long iron-barred corridors, and narrow, dimly lit cells create a sense of confinement and oppression. Each hallway seems to echo with the footsteps and voices of those who once walked them. While the decaying structures enhance the feeling that the past is pressing in on the present, visitors often describe an immediate chill upon entering the complex, a sensation that grows as they move deeper into the shadowed cell blocks and abandoned exercise yards. The combination of architectural severity and historical trauma ensures that every corner of the prison carries an almost tangible weight. Harsh treatment and strict discipline were hallmarks of life at Lorton. Inmates endured long hours of labor, strict routines, and frequent punishments for minor infractions. The psychological toll was immense, particularly for those confined in solitary cells or isolated wings. Over the decades, countless prisoners experienced fear, despair, and anger, and many of these intense emotions appear to have left a lasting imprint on the facility. Paranormal investigators suggest that such concentrated emotional energy can persist in a location long after the events themselves, and the experiences reported at Lorton Reformatory support this idea. Visitors and staff frequently report auditory phenomena that defy explanation, voices calling out from empty cells, disembodied footsteps echoing along deserted corridors, and the metallic clanging of bars are all common occurrences. Some guests claim to hear muffled screams or anguished murmurs, particularly in areas associated with punishment or solitary confinement. These sounds are often described as coming from no discernible source, leaving witnesses unnerved and acutely aware of the prison's lingering presence. Investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, corroborating many of these first-hand accounts and suggesting that the prison remains a hotspot for paranormal activity. Visual manifestations are equally prevalent at Lorton. Shadowy figures have been observed pacing hallways, standing silently in cell doorways, or disappearing suddenly around corners. Some witnesses report mist-like forms or more solid apparitions resembling inmates in period uniforms, moving with purpose through the ruins. The decaying infrastructure of the prison, peeling paint, crumbling walls, and rusted barzonry heightens the sense of the uncanny, as if the very fabric of the building is steeped in memory. These apparitions often appear in locations associated with particularly harsh treatment or violent incidents, further suggesting a link between historical suffering and ongoing paranormal activity. The prison's exterior spaces also hold their own eerie energy. Abandoned exercise yards, empty recreation fields, and overgrown pathways evoke images of prisoners once forced to march or labor under strict supervision. Many visitors report feelings of being watched, sudden chills, or fleeting shadows moving across the grounds. Some have captured photographs showing orbs of light or unexplained figures, reinforcing the impression that the prison's past residents continued to traverse the facility even in its abandoned state. Historical events contribute heavily to Lorton's haunted reputation. Incidents of inmate unrest, escape attempts, and violent altercations left physical and emotional scars throughout the prison. The stories of those who suffered, were punished, or died within its walls appear to resonate with anyone who explores the complex. Even after closure, the emotional residue of decades of confinement and abuse seems to remain embedded in the walls and hallways, creating a uniquely intense and unsettling environment. Many visitors report a combination of auditory, visual, and tactile experiences during tours of the prison. Cold spots, the feeling of being touched by unseen hands, and sudden, inexplicable movements of objects are all frequently cited. Footsteps often follow guests in empty hallways, and some report hearing doors swing open or shut without cause. These phenomena are especially pronounced in solitary cells and the oldest sections of the complex. suggesting that areas associated with suffering and isolation are particularly active. The Lorton Reformatory has become a destination for paranormal investigators and history enthusiasts alike. Its mix of historical significance and persistent ghostly activity creates an environment where visitors can feel the past almost tangibly. Shadowy figures, disembodied voices, cold spots, and clanging bars all serve as reminders that the prison is more than a relic of history, is a living testament to decades of human suffering and unrest. Walking through Lorton Reformatory today is a haunting experience. Every cell block, hallway, and abandoned yard serves as a reminder of the harsh conditions endured by inmates and the violent incidents that unfolded over nearly a century. The presence of restless spirits, unexplained noises, and ghostly apparitions ensures that the prison's dark history is not merely remembered but actively felt. The building remains a chilling monument to the lives impacted by confinement, punishment, and fear, demonstrating that some histories never truly fade, they linger, echoing through the ruins and shadows of the past. Sing Sing Prison, located in Ossining, New York, is one of the most notorious correctional facilities in American history. Established in 1826, it quickly became infamous for its harsh discipline, high security measures, and grim reputation. Over the decades, Sing Sing earned a fearsome nickname as a place where violence, despair, and death were ever present. The prison became particularly known for its electric chair, Old Sparky, which claimed the lives of over 600 inmates. The cumulative energy of decades of incarceration, punishment, and executions has left an enduring mark on the facility, making it a location rich in both historical significance and paranormal activity. The architecture of Sing Sing contributes significantly to its oppressive atmosphere. The towering stone walls, iron-barred cells, and long echoing corridors were designed to enforce control and intimidation. Each hallway carries the faintest sound to the farthest reaches, creating an amplified sense of isolation and confinement. Visitors often describe a feeling of being watched, with shadows seeming to shift and move in corners, just out of sight. Even in areas that are now empty or repurposed, there is a palpable sense of history pressing down, as if the weight of the past refuses to let go. Executions at Sing Sing were a central part of its notoriety. The electric chair, known as Old Sparky, was installed in the early 1890s, and for decades it delivered justice to condemned prisoners. Accounts from guards and witnesses describe the chamber as a place thick with tension, fear, and despair, where the final moments of inmates were marked by anguish and terror. Today, many who enter the execution area report hearing phantom screams and anguished cries, even when the room is empty. The air is said to carry a heavy, oppressive energy, as though the suffering of the past lingers in the very walls. Paranormal investigators often focus on this area, capturing electronic voice phenomena and unexplained sounds that reinforce its reputation as one of the most haunted parts of the prison. The cell blocks themselves are rife with reported activity. Inmates endured strict routines, harsh punishments, and overcrowded conditions that left many in despair. Visitors often report sudden chills, cold spots, and the sensation of being watched as they walk through these areas. Some describe shadowy figures pacing the corridors or standing silently at the end of cells before vanishing when approached. These visual manifestations are often fleeting but leave a lasting impression, heightening the sense that the energy of past prisoners remains embedded within the prison. Auditory phenomena are among the most commonly reported experiences at Sing Sing. Visitors and staff frequently hear the faint echo of footsteps when none should exist, doors creaking or clanging shut without explanation, and distant whispers that seem to emanate from the stone walls themselves. Phantom screams, especially near the execution chamber, are reported so often that many consider them a defining feature of the prison's paranormal landscape. These disembodied sounds contribute to an immersive experience, where the history of violence and punishment becomes almost tangible. Shadowy figures and glowing apparitions are also frequently reported. Witnesses describe forms moving silently through hallways or standing motionless near cells, their features indistinct but human in shape. Some appear as full-bodied apparitions of inmates in period uniforms, while others are fleeting shadows that vanish when approached. Occasionally, glowing lights or orbs are captured on camera in locations associated with punishment or execution, reinforcing the impression that the prison is alive with residual energy. The psychological impact of confinement and fear at Sing Sing cannot be understated. Solitary cells and punishment areas were designed to isolate and intimidate, leaving inmates in a state of mental and emotional strain. Many prisoners reportedly suffered severe anxiety, depression, or madness due to these conditions. Paranormal researchers suggest that the intense emotions of fear, anger, and despair can leave a lasting imprint on a location, a phenomenon that seems evident in the persistent activity reported throughout the prison today. Visitors often report a combination of auditory, visual, and tactile experiences that create a chilling atmosphere. Cold spots can appear suddenly, accompanied by the sensation of invisible hands brushing against them or a weight pressing down on their shoulders. Doors swing open or close without cause, and footsteps echo along empty corridors. These occurrences are most common in areas associated with violence, punishment, or death, suggesting that the prison retains the emotional and psychic energy of its long and turbulent history. Even beyond the execution chamber and cell blocks, the overall environment of Sing Sing carries a sense of foreboding. The thick stone walls, shadowed corners, and claustrophobic architecture amplify the feeling that the past is never truly gone. Every step through the prison is accompanied by the faint, almost imperceptible sense of being watched, of history pressing against the present. Shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, and unexplained sounds create a powerful impression that the prison's energy is not just a memory but an active presence. Paranormal investigators consistently identify Sing Sing as one of the most active haunted prisons in the United States. Its combination of a violent history, harsh punishment, and high number of executions has created an environment in which the spirits of former inmates are believed to remain. From phantom screams in the execution chamber to shadowy apparitions drifting through cell blocks, the experiences reported at Sing Sing suggest a strong connection between the site's dark history and its present-day hauntings. Walking through Sing Sing today, whether as a visitor, investigator, or historian, is a powerful reminder of the prison's enduring legacy. The echoes of over a century of violence, punishment, and despair are ever present, manifesting as ghostly activity that blurs the line between history and the supernatural. Shadowy figures, disembodied voices, sudden chills, and glowing apparitions serve as constant reminders that Sing Sing is more than just a historic site. It is a place where the energy of the past continues to watch, whisper, and haunt all who dare to enter. Fort Delaware, located on Peapatch Island in Delaware City, Delaware, is a historic military fortress with a dark and haunting past. Originally constructed in the early 19th century, the fort gained infamy during the Civil War, when it was converted into a prison for Confederate soldiers. And today, Fort Delaware is considered one of America's most haunted locations. Visitors and paranormal investigators alike report unsettling phenomena that suggest the spirits of those who died here have never truly left. The architecture of Fort Delaware contributes to its eerie atmosphere. Its massive stone walls, dry moats, and narrow passageways were designed for defense and containment. Yet they also create an oppressive environment that seems to amplify sound and shadow. Walking through the fort, visitors often describe a feeling of being watched, as if unseen eyes follow their every move. The echoing corridors carry the faintest noises, from footsteps to distant voices, and the cold draft of the Delaware River can make the atmosphere even more chilling. Every corner of the fort seems steeped in the memories of suffering and death, providing a palpable sense of the torment endured by its former prisoners. During the Civil War, Fort Delaware was notorious for its inhumane conditions. Confederate prisoners were housed in cramped, poorly ventilated cells, with limited food and inadequate sanitation. Diseases such as smallpox, dysentery, and pneumonia spread rapidly, claiming the lives of thousands. In addition to illness, the harsh discipline and strict routines imposed by Union guards added psychological stress to the physical suffering. The fort became a place where despair and fear were constant companions. And many historians believe that the intensity of these emotions has left a lingering imprint on the site that can still be sensed today. Visitors to Fort Delaware frequently report auditory phenomena that are difficult to explain. Cries of suffering, moans, and whispers are commonly heard in the corridors and near the old prison cells, often appearing to emanate from empty spaces. Some describe hearing commands or shouts, as though the ghosts of guards and soldiers are replaying moments from the past. Footsteps echo along the stone hallways, yet when explored, no one is present. These sounds, combined with the oppressive atmosphere, create an immersive and unsettling experience, leaving visitors with the distinct impression that the fort is alive with the memories of its deceased occupants. Visual phenomena are also prevalent. Shadowy figures have been seen walking the halls, standing in doorways, or patrolling the ramparts. Witnesses often describe them as soldiers in period uniforms, their features obscured or indistinct, giving the impression that they are caught between this world and the next. Some apparitions appear to be performing daily routines or pacing in frustration, as though trapped by the events that ended their lives. Others vanish suddenly when approached, leaving only the echo of their presence. On occasion, glowing orbs or mist-like forms are captured on camera, particularly near areas that saw high mortality or suffering, reinforcing the notion that the fort remains a conduit for lingering spirits. The prison's outer areas are not exempt from paranormal activity. Visitors to the fort's grounds, including the moats and exterior walkways, report sudden chills, feelings of unease, and fleeting glimpses of figures moving along the walls. Some describe sensations of being touched by invisible hands or the feeling of being followed. The combination of isolation, historical violence, and environmental decay creates a setting ripe for such experiences, blending the natural eeriness of abandoned military architecture with the residual energy of a tragic past. Disease and death were constant during the fort's operation as a prison, and the intensity of these conditions is thought to contribute to its haunting. Overcrowding led to constant stress, fear, and desperation among inmates, and many prisoners died in their cells alone. Others perished in communal areas, often surrounded by the cries and groans of those still suffering. The cumulative emotional and physical trauma of thousands of deaths has left a persistent presence, one that visitors report experiencing as more than just memory, but as an active, palpable force. Paranormal investigators consistently identify Fort Delaware as one of the most active historic sites in the United States. Electronic voice phenomena, shadow sightings, and unexplained noises are reported on nearly every investigation. Some claim that specific areas, such as the prisoner cells or the hospital quarters, are particularly active, while others describe general feelings of oppression and dread throughout the fort. The combination of structural confinement, tragic history, and the intensity of human suffering creates an environment where paranormal activity seems almost inevitable. Walking through Fort Delaware today is a stark reminder of the human cost of war and confinement. Every hallway, cell, and stone wall bears silent witness to the thousands who suffered and died here. Shadowy soldiers pacing the ramparts, phantom cries echoing across the fort, and sudden drops in temperature serve as a constant reminder that the past remains present. Visitors leave with a heightened awareness that this is a place where history and the supernatural intersect, where the suffering of decades past continues to ripple through time. Fort Delaware is not merely a relic of Civil War history. It is a living memorial to the thousands of souls who endured unimaginable hardship. The cries of the deceased, shadowy figures of soldiers, and pervasive feeling of despair make it clear that this is a site where the past refuses to remain buried for anyone who steps within its walls. The fort offers a chilling reminder that history is not only written in books, but is etched into the very stones and lingering spirits of the places where it unfolded. Auburn Prison, located in Auburn, New York, is one of America's oldest and most historically significant correctional facilities. Established in 1817, it became the model for the Auburn system, a method of incarceration designed to enforce strict discipline and silent labor among inmates. Under this system, prisoners were required to work in silence during the day and were confined to individual cells at night, creating an environment of extreme psychological and physical strain. Over the decades, the prison became notorious for its harsh conditions, frequent violence, and the emotional toll it exacted on inmates, leaving behind a legacy of suffering that is still palpable today. The architecture of Auburn Prison contributes heavily to its foreboding atmosphere. Thick stone walls, iron-barred cells, and long, narrow corridors create a sense of confinement and isolation. The echoes of footsteps, the clanging of metal doors, and the groans of the structure itself make every movement within the prison unnervingly amplified. Visitors often report an immediate sense of unease, as if the walls themselves carried the weight of the countless inmates who lived, suffered, and died within them. The stark, utilitarian design reinforces the oppressive nature of the Auburn system, leaving a lasting impression of the hardships endured here. Brutal conditions were a defining aspect of Auburn's history. Prisoners faced overcrowding, poor sanitation, inadequate nutrition, and harsh disciplinary measures. Corporal punishment, solitary confinement, and public shaming were common, and many inmates succumbed to illness or despair under the relentless regimen. The psychological effects of such treatment were severe, with some prisoners reportedly losing their sanity after prolonged confinement. This combination of physical and mental suffering created an environment charged with intense emotion, and many believe that the energy of those decades of hardship continues to linger within the prison walls. One of the most infamous areas of Auburn Prison is the death chamber. For centuries, it has been the site of executions that claimed the lives of countless condemned men. The chamber, designed to be both functional and isolating, has become a focal point for paranormal activity. Guards and visitors report hearing phantom screams, anguished cries, and the echo of footsteps long after the room has been emptied. Some claim to see shadowy figures moving silently near the chamber, often vanishing when approached. The oppressive energy in this part of the prison is said to be overwhelming, leaving those who enter with a sense of dread that is difficult to shake. Auditory phenomena are among the most frequently reported experiences at Auburn. Visitors and staff have described hearing disembodied footsteps, voices whispering indistinct words, and the metallic clanging of doors or chains without explanation. Phantom murmurs seem to echo through the long corridors and cells, sometimes repeating phrases or calling out names. These sounds often appear in areas associated with punishment, labor, or execution, suggesting that the energy of past suffering is concentrated in the locations where it was most intense. Paranormal investigators have recorded electronic voice phenomena in multiple areas of the prison, further reinforcing its reputation as a haunted site. Visual manifestations are also commonly reported. Shadowy figures are frequently seen pacing corridors, standing silently at the ends of hallways, or appearing in cell doorways. Some apparitions resemble inmates dressed in period clothing, moving as though engaged in the daily routines of their time, while others are more amorphous, mist-like shadows that fade when approached. Occasional reports describe glowing orbs or flickering lights, particularly near areas of historical violence or punishment. These visual phenomena often accompany sudden drops in temperature or cold spots, intensifying the sense of unease and signaling the presence of something unseen. The prison's cell blocks themselves are hotbeds of activity. Inmates endured extreme isolation during the night, enforced silence during labor, and constant surveillance by guards. Many visitors describe an oppressive feeling in these areas, as though unseen eyes are following them. Some report the sensation of being touched by invisible hands, while others feel a weight pressing down on their shoulders. These experiences are often concentrated in the oldest parts of the prison, suggesting that the energy of decades of confinement and suffering has become embedded in the structure itself. Auburn Prison's long history of violence, punishment, and death makes it a prime location for residual energy. Overcrowding, harsh discipline, and the psychological toll of the Auburn system created conditions in which extreme fear, anger, and despair were pervasive. Paranormal researchers suggest that such intense emotional energy can remain in a location for centuries, manifesting as ghostly activity that continues to affect anyone who enters. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena reported throughout the prison provides compelling evidence that the past is never truly gone. Even today, the prison continues to fascinate visitors and paranormal investigators. Tours and investigations offer a glimpse into the lives of those who endured its harsh system, and the lingering presence of restless spirits serves as a haunting reminder of the prison's violent and oppressive history. Shadowy figures pacing corridors, phantom footsteps echoing through empty halls, disembodied voices, and sudden cold spots all create an immersive experience in which history and the supernatural intersect. Walking through Auburn Prison is a visceral reminder of the human cost of incarceration under extreme conditions. Every cell, corridor, and shadowed corner carries with it the echoes of decades of suffering, punishment, and death. Visitors leave with the distinct impression that the prison is more than a historical landmark. It is a place where the past is alive, where ghostly presences remind all who enter that some histories refuse to remain buried. Auburn Prison stands as a chilling testament to the resilience and tragedy of those who endured its walls. A location where the echoes of the past continue to haunt the present. The Louisiana State Penitentiary, commonly known as Angola, is one of the most infamous prisons in the United States, both for its size and its dark history. Located in Angola, Louisiana, the prison sits on the grounds of a former slave plantation, a fact that has contributed to its reputation as a place steeped in suffering and cruelty. Established in 1901, Angola spans over 18,000 acres, making it the largest maximum security prison in the nation. Over the decades, it has been home to some of America's most violent offenders, and its history of brutality, exploitation, and death has left an enduring mark on both the living and, many believe, the dead. Today, visitors, inmates, and staff report an unsettling array of paranormal phenomena, suggesting that the spirits of both prisoners and enslaved people may still linger within its walls. The architecture and layout of Angola contribute to its chilling atmosphere. Rows of cell blocks stretch across the sprawling property, surrounded by farmland, barbed wire, and watchtowers. Inside, narrow corridors, iron-barred cells, and dimly lit hallways amplify the sense of confinement and oppression. Even visitors in modern times describe a pervasive feeling of dread, as though the energy of the past has seeped into every stone and floorboard. The vastness of the prison, combined with its long history of violence and exploitation, creates an environment where one cannot help but feel the weight of decades of human suffering. Angola's dark reputation stems not only from its modern history, but from the land's legacy as a slave plantation. Before becoming a prison, the property was home to thousands of enslaved people who endured forced labor, harsh punishment, and dehumanizing conditions. Many believe that the spirits of these individuals, who suffered and died on the land, have remained bound by the injustice and violence they endured. Inmates and visitors alike report experiencing inexplicable chills, sudden movements of air, and an overwhelming sense of being watched, particularly in areas near the old plantation buildings and fields. These encounters suggest that the energy of the land's dark past has carried into the present, intertwining with the suffering of those who have been incarcerated at Angola over the last century. Within the prison itself, paranormal activity is frequently reported. Shadowy figures are seen moving silently through the cell blocks, sometimes pacing the halls or appearing in doorways before vanishing. Visitors often describe the sensation of unseen eyes tracking their movements, along with sudden, inexplicable chills that wash over them without warning. The presence of these entities is most pronounced at night, when the stillness and isolation amplify the haunting atmosphere. Staff members have also reported strange lights flickering in empty hallways, doors opening or closing on their own, and the sound of footsteps echoing through corridors long after the last prisoners have retired. Auditory phenomena are particularly disturbing at Angola. Screams, moans, and the cries of pain have been reported throughout the prison, sometimes appearing to come from isolated cells or abandoned areas. Some visitors hear whispering voices calling out names or muttering unintelligible phrases, creating an almost unbearable sense of unease. These sounds often appear in locations associated with punishment or solitary confinement, suggesting that the intensity of past suffering may have left an imprint on the environment itself. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena in several areas of the prison, adding further credibility to the claims of lingering spirits. Visual sightings are equally compelling. Inmates and visitors have described seeing figures dressed in period clothing, both modern prison uniforms and attire reminiscent of the plantation era. Some apparitions appear to move with purpose, as if going about daily tasks long since ended, while others remain stationary, watching silently before fading away. Glowing orbs and mist-like forms are also frequently reported, especially in older cell blocks and near the edges of the property where plantation buildings once stood. These sightings, combined with auditory phenomena, create a multisensory haunting that is difficult to ignore. The psychological impact of Angola's environment amplifies its haunting reputation. Inmates are subject to long sentences, strict discipline, and high levels of violence, which contributes to a pervasive atmosphere of fear and tension. The combination of historical trauma and ongoing human suffering appears to create a kind of echo, where the emotional and psychic residue of past atrocities continues to affect those who enter. Many visitors report feeling an oppressive weight on their chest, sudden anxiety, or an inexplicable urge to leave certain areas, particularly in older cell blocks or isolated parts of the grounds. Even the farmland and exterior areas of Angola are not exempt from reports of paranormal activity. People have witnessed shadowy figures moving through the fields, lights appearing in the distance with no source, and cold spots in areas that should be warm and sunlit. Some claim to see ghostly figures working the fields, a possible remnant of both enslaved laborers and prison inmates. The convergence of historical injustice, human suffering, and isolated geography creates a uniquely intense environment where the past feels remarkably present. From shadowy figures to disembodied voices, unexplained lights, and chilling sensations, the prison offers a profound example of how a site's violent history can manifest in persistent hauntings. Many consider it not only a place of historical significance, but also a location where the spirits of the oppressed refuse to be forgotten. Walking through Louisiana State Penitentiary is a visceral reminder of the dark side of human history. The legacy of slavery, the cruelty of incarceration, and the repeated suffering of inmates combine to create a landscape that is as psychologically oppressive as it is physically imposing. Shadowy figures, sudden chills, screams in the night, and ghostly lights serve as constant reminders that the land and prison are alive with memory. Angola is more than just a correctional facility. It is a place where the weight of history lingers, and where the spirits of those who endured unimaginable hardships continue to watch, wander, and haunt the present. The old Essex County Jail, located in Newark, New Jersey, is a haunting relic of a bygone era, abandoned since 1970, yet still echoing with the energy of its grim past. Once a functioning correctional facility, the jail housed countless men and women under harsh and unforgiving conditions. Overcrowding, strict discipline, and minimal oversight created an environment rife with fear, despair, and violence. These conditions left emotional and psychic imprints that, according to countless reports, continue to linger in the structure, manifesting as ghostly phenomena that disturb visitors and paranormal investigators alike. The jail's decaying walls, rusting metal bars, and narrow, dark corridors provide the perfect backdrop for encounters that defy explanation, making it one of New Jersey's most notorious haunted locations. Walking through the old Essex County Jail today, one is immediately struck by the sense of confinement. The massive stone and brick structure, punctuated by narrow corridors and iron-barred cells, conveys the oppressive atmosphere that prisoners experience daily. The architecture amplifies every sound: the creak of a floorboard, the groan of a gate, even the whisper of the wind, creating an eerie echo that seems almost sentient. Graffiti covers much of the interior, remnants of explorers who dared to venture inside over the decades. Yet these markings seem more than mere paint. Many visitors report hearing faint whispers and voices emanating from the walls themselves, as if the building is attempting to communicate the anguish of its past inhabitants. Auditory phenomena are among the most commonly reported experiences at the old Essex County Jail. Explorers often hear the sound of footsteps echoing in empty corridors, distant clanging of cell doors, and anguished screams that appear to come from nowhere. Whispers calling out names, fragmented sentences, or unintelligible murmurs are frequently reported, particularly in areas once used for solitary confinement or punishment. The sounds often seem to follow visitors from room to room, vanishing when investigated but leaving a lingering sense of unease. Paranormal investigators have documented these occurrences using audio recording equipment, capturing unexplained noises that appear to have no physical source. Cold spots and sudden shifts in temperature are another hallmark of the jail's haunting. Visitors describe entering a corridor on a warm day only to feel an icy chill sweep across the room, sometimes accompanied by the sensation of being touched or pressed upon by an unseen presence. These sensations are particularly intense in areas associated with historical suffering, such as the solitary cells or punishment blocks. Many explorers report a growing sense of dread as they move deeper into the building, a weight pressing down on them that intensifies with every step. It is this combination of sensory anomalies, auditory, tactile, and psychological, that makes the old Essex County Jail an unsettling and memorable location. Visual phenomena are also frequently reported. Shadowy figures have been seen moving through the hallways, lingering in doorways, or pacing silently along the cell blocks. Some apparitions appear human in form, while others are more nebulous, fading in and out of view like smoke or mist. Occasional sightings of glowing orbs or flickering lights are often captured in photographs, particularly in areas historically associated with punishment or unrest. Many visitors report fleeting movements out of the corner of their eye shapes that vanish when directly observed, further reinforcing the feeling that the jail is alive with the echoes of its tragic past. The history of the old Essex County Jail explains much of its paranormal reputation. During its operational years, the facility was notorious for overcrowding and harsh discipline. Inmates endured long periods of isolation, limited food, and strict enforcement of rules. While violence and unrest were common occurrences, the intense psychological strain combined with physical hardship left deep emotional scars on those confined within its walls. Many paranormal researchers believe that such extreme suffering can create residual energy, which lingers long after the individuals who experienced it have passed. This energy is thought to be responsible for the persistent hauntings reported by visitors and investigators. Graffiti-covered walls, though seemingly innocuous, contribute to the jail's unsettling atmosphere. Some visitors claim that the markings appear to shift or pulse when observed, as if imbued with the memories of the prisoners who once occupied the building. Whispers and murmurs often seem to emanate from these surfaces, heightening the sense that the structure itself is a living repository of anguish and despair. The combination of decayed architecture, historical trauma, and sensory anomalies creates an immersive environment that is both fascinating and terrifying for those who venture inside. Despite its state of decay, the old Essex County Jail continues to attract urban explorers, historians, and paranormal investigators. Those who enter the building are often struck by the intensity of its atmosphere, reporting experiences that range from faint noises and cold spots to full apparitions and overwhelming feelings of dread. Some visitors refuse to enter after dark, citing the oppressive energy and the sense of unseen eyes following their every move. The jail's reputation as a haunted site has only grown over the years, fueled by first-hand accounts, recorded phenomena, and its decaying, atmospheric architecture. Walking through the old Essex County Jail today is to step into a place where the past is never truly gone. Each corridor, cell, and crumbling wall carries echoes of lives lived in fear, despair, and confinement. Footsteps, whispers, shadowy figures, and inexplicable chills all serve as reminders that the building is more than an abandoned structure. It is a vessel for memory, suffering, and restless spirits. For those who dare to explore its halls, the old Essex County Jail offers an unnerving glimpse into the lingering effects of human suffering, a haunting testament to the ghosts of Newark's dark history. Tennessee State Prison in Nashville, Tennessee, stands as a grim monument to over 9 decades of incarceration, violence, and human suffering. Opened in 1898, this fortress-like structure quickly became notorious for its brutal conditions, riots, and executions. For nearly a century, inmates endured overcrowded cells, harsh discipline, and constant tension, creating an environment charged with fear, despair, and anger. When the prison finally closed in 1992, it left behind not only decaying stone walls and rusting gates, but also an aura of lingering unrest. Today, visitors and paranormal investigators alike report chilling phenomena. Shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, sudden screams, and oppressive energy that seems to weigh down every corridor. Tennessee State Prison is more than a historic site. It is a haunting reminder of the consequences of human cruelty and institutionalized suffering. The architecture of Tennessee State Prison contributes heavily to its eerie atmosphere. Constructed from massive limestone blocks, the building resembles a fortress more than a correctional facility. Thick walls, narrow corridors, and high iron-barred windows create a sense of confinement and isolation, amplifying both fear and the echo of sound. Every creak of the floorboards, groan of the structure, and gust of wind through broken windows is magnified, producing an unnerving resonance that makes the prison feel alive. Visitors often describe an immediate sense of unease upon entering, as if unseen eyes are watching, tracking their every move through the shadowed halls. The history of the prison explains much of the lingering fear and reported paranormal activity. Tennessee State Prison was the site of numerous riots and violent outbreaks, often sparked by overcrowding, poor conditions, or conflicts between inmates. Punishments were severe, and executions carried out on-site contributed to the building's grim reputation. The death row area, in particular, became a place steeped in despair. Inmates awaiting execution endured extreme isolation and mental torment, and many visitors today report that the same oppressive energy persists. Some describe hearing anguished cries, whispers, or screams emanating from the long-abandoned cells, while others feel an unshakable sense of dread pressing down upon them. Auditory phenomena are a consistent feature of Tennessee State Prison. Phantom footsteps echo along empty corridors. The clanging of cell doors rings out despite the lack of guards or inmates, and sudden, unexplained screams pierce the silence. Visitors report hearing disembodied voices calling names or muttering phrases in a low, haunting tone, often in areas associated with punishment or isolation. Some researchers have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, during investigations, recording sounds that seem to come from no physical source. These eerie noises contribute to the prison's reputation as one of the most haunted, abandoned correctional facilities in the United States. Visual encounters are also commonly reported. Shadowy figures are frequently seen moving through corridors or standing silently near cell doors, vanishing when approached. Some apparitions resemble inmates from past decades, dressed in striped uniforms, pacing aimlessly, or carrying out actions as if caught in an endless loop of prison life. Others are more amorphous, mist-like shapes that fade in and out of existence. Ghostly figures are especially prevalent near the abandoned death row and execution areas, suggesting a connection between the traumatic events of the past and the activity observed today. The oppressive energy felt within the prison is one of its most notable aspects. Visitors often describe a sensation of weight pressing down on their shoulders or chest, sudden waves of anxiety, or an instinctive urge to leave certain areas. Cold spots appear unpredictably, sometimes accompanied by a feeling of being touched or watched. These physical and emotional reactions suggest that the intense suffering, fear, and anger from decades of incarceration have left a residual presence, manifesting in ways that are difficult to explain. Paranormal investigators often note that areas where violence, punishment, or executions occurred tend to be the most active, supporting the theory that emotional energy can linger long after death. Even the outdoor areas and perimeter of the prison carry a haunting atmosphere. Rusting gates, overgrown courtyards, and broken guard towers contribute to a sense of abandonment and decay. Some visitors report seeing figures on the rooftops or along the walls, moving silently as though keeping watch. The combination of history, architecture, and residual energy creates an environment where fear and fascination coexist, drawing urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts to the site, despite tour, perhaps because of the chilling stories associated with it. Many paranormal investigators have attempted to document the unusual activity at Tennessee State Prison, from shadow figures to unexplained sounds, sudden temperature drops, and sensations of being touched by unseen entities. The prison provides a wealth of material for those seeking to understand haunted spaces. Stories of ghostly inmates pacing corridors, moaning in despair, and lingering near death row persist across decades, lending credibility to claims that the building is more than just an abandoned structure. It is a vessel for memory and emotion, haunted by the souls who suffered within its walls. Walking through Tennessee State Prison today is an experience steeped in history and the supernatural. Every hallway, cell block, and abandoned death row corridor carries echoes of fear, pain, and death. Shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, and disembodied cries remind visitors that this prison is not merely a relic of the past, but a site where suffering continues to resonate. Tennessee State Prison is a chilling testament to the human capacity for cruelty, the enduring impact of institutionalized violence, and the possibility that some histories refuse to remain silent, lingering in the stones and shadows for all who dare to enter. The old Santa Fe County Jail, located in the heart of Santa Fe, New Mexico, stands as a haunting reminder of a turbulent past. Built in the late 19th century, the jail quickly became notorious for overcrowding, harsh conditions, and frequent violence. Its narrow cells, iron bars, and confined corridors held men and women who faced strict discipline, long sentences, and constant fear. Over decades of operation, countless prisoners endured mental and physical torment, leaving behind a legacy that some believe continues to linger within the building's walls. Since its closure, the jail has drawn historians, urban explorers, and paranormal investigators, all drawn by reports of strange occurrences that suggest the spirits of former inmates may still haunt the space. The architecture of the old Santa Fe County Jail contributes to its unsettling reputation. Thick stone walls, low ceilings, and iron-barred cells create a sense of confinement that is palpable even today. Every creak of the floorboards, echo of footsteps, or gust of wind through broken windows feels amplified, making visitors hyper-aware of their surroundings. Narrow hallways twist and turn, forcing exploration to feel almost labyrinthine, while the decaying infrastructure adds to the oppressive atmosphere. The combination of these architectural elements and decades of human suffering makes it easy to understand why so many report feeling watched, followed, or otherwise unsettled during their visits. Auditory phenomena are among the most commonly reported experiences in the jail. Visitors frequently describe hearing footsteps echoing along empty corridors, even when no one else is present. Disembodied voices whisper unintelligible words or call out names, often near cells that were once reserved for solitary confinement or punishment. Some guests report sudden, piercing screams that seem to emanate from nowhere, sending chills down their spines. Paranormal investigators have recorded these sounds on audio equipment, capturing unexplained noises that have no physical source. Many believe that the intensity of fear, anger, and despair that accumulated over decades has left an imprint on the building, creating residual energy that manifests as sound. Visual phenomena have also been reported by numerous visitors. Shadowy figures, sometimes indistinct and flickering, like smoke, are seen moving through the hallways or appearing near cell doors. Other apparitions appear more defined, resembling prisoners in old-fashioned uniforms from the jail's operational years. These figures are often observed pacing the corridors, peering out from cells, or lingering in doorways before vanishing suddenly. Ghostly orbs and flickering lights have also been captured in photographs and video footage, especially in areas associated with confinement, punishment, or violence. Some witnesses report glimpsing figures out of the corner of their eye, only for them to disappear when looked at directly, intensifying the sense of unease and the impression that the building is alive with memory. Physical sensations are another hallmark of paranormal activity in the jail. Visitors often describe sudden cold spots, as if icy air is being pushed through a room with no source. Some report feeling touched, brushed past, or even lightly grabbed by invisible hands, creating a tangible sense of presence. A few have experienced a heavy, oppressive feeling on their chest or shoulders, a sensation so intense that they were compelled to leave the area. These experiences are most often reported in solitary confinement cells, punishment areas, or hallways with a history of unrest, suggesting that the suffering and emotional intensity of the past continue to manifest in the present. The history of the old Santa Fe County Jail amplifies its haunting reputation. Overcrowding was a constant issue, and prisoners often faced long sentences with limited human contact. Fights and riots occasionally erupted due to the oppressive conditions, and punishment was harsh and unrelenting. Those who survived the jail's harsh environment frequently carried trauma with them for life, while others perished in confinement. The intensity of emotional and physical suffering created an environment in which residual energy could accumulate, leaving the building susceptible to paranormal activity long after it ceased functioning as a correctional facility. Graffiti and markings left by visitors over the decades also contribute to the building's unsettling aura. Some guests report hearing whispers emanating from walls covered in names and phrases, or feeling the sensation that the building itself is aware of their presence. These markings, combined with the jail's decaying structure and historical energy, create a sense of tension and unease that is difficult to shake. Many urban explorers and paranormal teams note that certain areas, particularly those that were once heavily populated with prisoners, tend to be the most active, reinforcing the notion that the energy of suffering is strongest where it occurred most frequently. Visitors to the old Santa Fe County Jail often leave with a profound sense of having stepped into a space suspended between past and present. Shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and sudden chills serve as constant reminders of the pain, fear, and despair that once permeated the building. The combination of historical significance, architectural confinement, and reported paranormal phenomena makes the jail not only a site of curiosity, but also a place of reflection on the human capacity for suffering and endurance. Walking through the old Santa Fe County Jail today is to walk among echoes of the past. Every corridor, cell, and decaying wall carries the memory of those who endured life behind its bars. Footsteps, whispers, and shadowy apparitions remind visitors that this building is more than a silent relic. It is a vessel for history, memory, and lingering energy. For those who venture inside, the jail offers a chilling encounter with the spirits of the past, a haunting testament to suffering that refuses to be forgotten. Leavenworth Penitentiary, located in Leavenworth, Kansas, stands as one of the oldest and most notorious federal prisons in the United States. Established in 1903, this massive fortress has housed some of the country's most dangerous criminals, including gangsters, mobsters, and repeat offenders. From its earliest days, the penitentiary became infamous for its strict regimen, overcrowding, and harsh conditions. Inmates endured long sentences, grueling labor, and strict enforcement of rules, often leading to conflict, despair, and even death. Over the decades, the prison developed a fearsome reputation, not only for its security and punishment, but also for the sense of unease that many visitors today report. Even though the prison continues to operate, countless stories of phantom activity and unexplained phenomena have emerged, suggesting that the spirits of those who suffered within its walls may never have truly left. The architecture of Leavenworth Penitentiary contributes significantly to its haunting presence. Constructed with thick brick walls, high watchtowers, and iron-barred cells, the prison exudes an air of permanence and severity. Its corridors are long and narrow, lined with cells where prisoners were confined for hours on end, often under oppressive conditions. The echo of footsteps on the concrete floors, the clanging of cell doors, and the whisper of the wind through broken windows can make even the most seasoned visitors feel uneasy. The penitentiary's fortress-like design not only served security purposes, but also reinforced the psychological pressure on inmates, a lingering effect that many believe has left a permanent mark on the structure's energy. Leavenworth has a long history of executions and violence, which contributes to its paranormal reputation. Throughout the 20th century, the penitentiary carried out numerous federal executions, and some inmates died under mysterious or violent circumstances. These deaths, combined with years of strict punishment and harsh living conditions, created a palpable atmosphere of fear and suffering. Visitors to the prison today often report experiencing cold spots, sudden chills, or a heavy sensation in the air, particularly in areas once associated with executions or solitary confinement. The energy of the penitentiary is said to carry the weight of decades of human suffering, manifesting in ways that are difficult to explain. Auditory phenomena are among the most frequently reported experiences at Leavenworth. Guards and visitors alike have described hearing phantom footsteps echoing along empty corridors, the clanging of doors shutting by themselves, and distant voices calling out in the dead of night. Some report hearing whispers or murmurs of conversations from empty cells, while others claim to hear anguished cries or the groans of prisoners long gone. Paranormal investigators have documented electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, in multiple areas of the prison, capturing unexplained sounds that have no physical source. Many believe that the residual emotions of fear, anger, and despair left by prisoners over the years are responsible for these persistent auditory occurrences. Visual experiences are also common in Leavenworth. Shadowy figures are often seen pacing hallways, standing in doorways, or disappearing around corners. Some apparitions resemble inmates in period uniforms, their features vague but their presence undeniable. Others are more ethereal, appearing as flickering lights or mist-like shapes that seem to float in the air before vanishing. Witnesses report seeing figures near solitary confinement cells, the execution chamber, and older sections of the prison that are no longer in regular use. Glowing orbs of light have also been captured on camera, often in areas associated with the prison's most intense suffering or violence. Many visitors also describe a tangible sense of oppression when entering certain parts of Leavenworth. The air can feel heavy, the temperature may drop suddenly, and some report the sensation of being watched or followed. In some cases, individuals have felt an invisible presence touch them or brush past them, leaving them shaken. These experiences are particularly intense in areas where prisoners were held for long periods or where executions were carried out. The combination of historical trauma, architectural confinement, and unexplained phenomena creates an environment that is as psychologically unnerving as it is physically imposing. The history of Leavenworth Penitentiary helps to explain the intensity of these experiences. Over its long history, inmates endured strict discipline, violence, and long sentences that often led to despair and mental anguish. Punishment was harsh, and the fear of retaliation or harm was ever present. In addition to executions, fights, and riots occasionally broke out, adding to the sense of tension and danger. It is this mixture of intense human emotion, physical suffering, and institutionalized cruelty that many paranormal experts believe has left a lasting imprint on the building, manifesting as the unexplained sounds, lights, and figures reported today. Even today, the prison continues to captivate the imagination of those interested in the paranormal. Ghost hunters, historians, and visitors are drawn to its long corridors and abandoned wings, all reporting experiences that range from faint whispers and cold spots to full apparitions and glowing orbs. Some claim to hear phantom footsteps pacing alongside them or to feel a presence lingering just out of sight. Others report a sense of dread or panic that seems to intensify the longer they remain inside. These stories have solidified Leavenworth's reputation as one of the most haunted operational prisons in America. Walking through Leavenworth Penitentiary today is to step into a living history of fear, suffering, and unresolved energy. The echoes of past prisoners linger in every corridor, cell, and execution chamber. Shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, and glowing lights all serve as reminders that this is more than a building. It is a vessel for the memories, emotions, and perhaps even the souls of those who once lived, suffered, and died within its walls. For those who venture inside, Leavenworth offers an unnerving glimpse into the darker aspects of human history and the lingering presence of the past that refuses to fade. Holmesburg Prison in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is one of the most infamous and unsettling correctional facilities in American history, operating from 1896 until its closure in 1995. Holmesburg was notorious not only for its overcrowded cells and strict discipline, but also for the medical experiments conducted on inmates during the mid-20th century. For decades, prisoners were subjected to chemical, biological, and psychological testing, often without their consent or with little understanding of the potential consequences. Many suffered long-term health effects, and some even died as a result of these experiments. The combination of harsh living conditions, violent incidents, and invasive experimentation created an atmosphere of fear and suffering that has left an indelible mark on the building. Today, Holmesburg Prison stands abandoned, yet the echoes of its dark past continue to manifest in reports of paranormal activity. From ghostly shadows and phantom footsteps to unexplained screams and a pervasive sense of despair. The physical structure of Holmesburg Prison contributes heavily to its eerie reputation. Built from solid brick and concrete, the massive facility features narrow corridors, iron-barred cells, and small, confining windows that allow only minimal light to enter. The layout was designed to enforce strict control, but it also amplifies sound and heightens feelings of isolation and confinement. Every creak of the floorboards, echo of footsteps, or gust of wind through broken windows seems magnified, creating the impression that the building itself is alive with memory. Visitors often report feeling immediately uneasy upon entering, as if the walls are silently watching and the weight of decades of suffering presses down upon them. Auditory phenomena are among the most commonly reported experiences at Holmesburg. Guests frequently describe hearing disembodied screams and moans, echoing down empty hallways and through the long abandoned cell blocks. Footsteps are heard pacing the corridors, sometimes accelerating or stopping abruptly, even when no one else is present. Whispers often rise from nowhere, sometimes calling out names or uttering phrases that seem to belong to long-gone inmates. Paranormal investigators have recorded electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, in multiple areas of the prison, capturing sounds that defy explanation. Many believe that these auditory manifestations are a residual echo of the fear, pain, and anger endured by prisoners over decades, lingering in the architecture like an imprint of human suffering. Visual encounters add another layer of chilling activity. Shadowy figures are frequently seen drifting through hallways, appearing near cell doors, or pacing silently along corridors before disappearing. Some apparitions resemble inmates in period prison uniforms, their faces indistinct but their presence undeniable. Others take on more nebulous forms, like flickering mists or shadowy silhouettes that seem to watch visitors before vanishing. In certain areas of the prison, particularly former medical experiment rooms and isolation cells. Glowing orbs and strange lights have been reported and captured on camera, adding to the sense that the building is haunted by the echoes of its dark history. The emotional and physical sensations reported by visitors are equally unnerving. Many describe sudden drops in temperature, cold spots that appear without explanation, or an oppressive heaviness that seems to press down on their shoulders or chest. Some report feeling brushed past or touched by invisible hands, leaving them startled and unsettled. A pervasive sense of despair or dread is often felt in the former solitary confinement and experimental areas, so intense that some visitors are compelled to leave before exploring the entire facility. Paranormal investigators have noted that the intensity of activity at Holmesburg is often far greater than at other abandoned prisons, with many choosing not to return after encountering overwhelming phenomena. The history of the prison itself amplifies the haunting. Overcrowding was a constant problem, and inmates frequently endured harsh discipline, physical abuse, and neglect. The introduction of medical experiments added a layer of psychological trauma, as prisoners were subjected to testing on their skin, eyes, and even exposed to chemical agents. Some inmates experienced extreme pain, permanent injury, or death, creating a dense accumulation of negative energy within the prison. Combined with the ongoing fear and tension of daily prison life, these experiences left a legacy of suffering that many believe has seeped into the walls and hallways, persisting even after the facility's closure. Graffiti and decay further enhanced the eerie atmosphere of Holmesburg. Rusting bars, crumbling walls, and peeling paint serve as reminders of the prison's long abandonment, while graffiti scrawled over decades sometimes seems to echo with faint voices or whispers. Many visitors report that certain areas feel heavier than others, particularly rooms where inmates were punished or experimented upon. Some claim that the building itself seems to react to their presence, with doors creaking open or slamming shut unexpectedly, lights flickering, and shadows shifting in corners. Despite its dark reputation, Holmesburg Prison draws historians, urban explorers, and paranormal enthusiasts eager to witness its haunting firsthand. Each visitor reports a slightly different experience, but the common thread's phantom screams, shadowy figures, cold spots, and overwhelming feelings of despair. A consistent picture of a site steeped in residual suffering. Walking through the abandoned halls today is a stark reminder of the cruelty, fear, and human endurance that defined the prison's long history. The building is more than just an abandoned correctional facility. It is a living repository of pain, memory, and lingering energy, where the echoes of past suffering refuse to fade. For those who venture inside, Holmesburg Prison offers a chilling encounter with the darker side of human history. Every corridor, cell, and experimental room carries the weight of decades of anguish. Shadows, phantom footsteps, and disembodied cries create an atmosphere in which the past feels present, and the building seems alive with memory. Holmesburg stands as a haunting testament to the consequences of human suffering, the abuse of power, and the residual impact of trauma. For visitors willing to explore its abandoned halls, the prison provides an unforgettable and unnerving glimpse into a place where the echoes of pain continue to resonate long after the final prisoner left its walls. And so, dear friends, our lantern burns low, and the echoes of chains and cries fade back into silence. These 25 prisons may stand in ruin or still hold the living, but all of them share one truth: walls this steeped in suffering never forget. If you've made it this far, you've walked with me through the darkest corridors of fear. And I thank you for keeping me company in the shadows. If you enjoyed this journey, let your light shine by joining this haunted family, so we can keep exploring the unseen together. Until we meet again, sleep gently, dream sweetly, and remember, some doors